Welcome back, Martini Giant fans. This is episode number 134, which are The Killer from 2023, directed by David Fincher and starring Michael Fassbender. And we decided to pair that with the 1967 film directed by Jean-Pierre Melville and starring Alain Delon. And it's called Le Samouraï. Of course, we love Fincher. You guys know we love Fincher. We've done several Fincher films on this podcast, especially Dan. Dan really loves Fincher, and he has a big soft spot for him. And of course, Fincher is very well known for his thriller, killer genre type of films, things like Zodiac and Seven, etc., etc. And he was clearly was very inspired by Le Samouraï, where The Killer is almost a very, very similar story or inspiration of Le Samouraï, and there's a lot that he borrows from. But what he does do with this is that the character of Fassbender's character in The Killer thinks he's really smart, but really isn't. And in Le Samouraï, he is 100% a killing machine. Very different in that way. I think it's kind of interesting to think about it. We've actually covered several movies where they are thrillers that are basically comedies in disguise. Think about when we talked about Tar in some ways. Really interesting things going on. Anyway, very happy to do this. We love The Killer, and it was really cool to do Le Samouraï, which we've wanted to do for a long time. And I think it's kind of good that we're doing more contemporary films these days. And you should go out and see The Killer, which is available right now on Netflix. So totally watch it. It's a really, really cool film. And if you can, watch Le Samouraï because it's also a fantastic film. Okay. We're not going to necessarily have time to record a podcast this weekend. We may try, if not next weekend. So sorry about that. But if you'd like to watch us record podcasts and see us live, you could definitely do that on our YouTube channel as well as our Twitch. Our Twitch is twitch.tv/martini_giant, twitch.tv/martini_giant. But our YouTube has these podcasts in video form as well, if you're interested in that. And that is youtube.com/@martinigiant. youtube.com/@martinigiant. Love for you guys to subscribe to it there and check this out. And if you'd like to support us, if you guys have been listening to us for a while and you'd like to support us, we would really appreciate it. The best way to support us is actually through our Patreon, because Patreon is actually the service that gives us the most payback for things. So we'd love to have you as a patron. And that is patreon.com/martinigiant, patreon.com/martinigiant. But for now, please enjoy The Killer and Le Samouraï. We are here today to talk about awesomeness. Mm-hmm. We are, if you guys are new to our live stream, we do a little bit of chit-chatting before we go, but then we'll get into the meaty goodness of the show. And this show is Le Samouraï with Alain Delon, directed by Melville.
Jean-Pierre Melville, yes, who's amazing.
And The Killer, starring Fassbender.
Michael Fassbender.
Michel
Fassbender.
Vite Bandu, the Fassbender, you know?
Yes, exactly. And David Fincher.
David Fincher.
That's it.
That was my friend. My friend, he used to make fun of me all the time. Because he was French and I was American, and he was like, yes, Henri Fonda. He was French.
Henri Fonda.
Henri Fonda.
That's right.
He was French. I was like, okay. Yes, but
two
it's David
assassin
Fincher.
films.
Two assassin films.
Yes.
One, clearly, especially if you. So I did. Okay, here's what I did. I'll tell you what I did. I watched The Killer a couple times, but I didn't watch it for a few weeks, and then I watched.
Did you watch it again?
No, and then I watched Le Samouraï, which I haven't seen since I was a kid, and I'm going to get to that in a second. And then I watched. Then I decided I'm going to watch The Killer again. But I said no, because I just watched it. It's called Le Samouraï.
Well, I was going to say.
There's influences. There's definitely influences.
Oh, yeah, and Fincher's very open about this. He's just absolutely. Yes. But the way that I think about this, watching these back to back, because I've now seen The Killer, I think 6 times, which is less than I've seen Le Samouraï. This Le Samouraï I've seen probably like 10, 11 times over the course of many, many, many years.
Sure.
But I've seen The Killer like 6 times in about 2 weeks. So it's very fresh in my brain. But the way that I set this up is we all have a mutual friend named Mark Pereira, right?
Sure.
And Mark Pereira, also a VFX person, also works on David Fincher films. And Mark made a great couple of short documentaries about our friend Carlos. And Carlos collects guns and goes shooting.
Oh, I think I know that guy.
You know Carlos, yep. And he's like, you should come and film me shooting, and then cut it together and make it look cool, right? So,
right there.
Come here and make videos of me with my guns.
Yeah. And the thing is that Carlos, I think, is a totally awesome guy, a very funny guy, and so Mark goes to videotapes him, shot at the shooting range, and does all this, and he comes up with 2 videos, right? And they're the same. They're basically the same video. So here's where it relates to The Killer and Le Samouraï. And one is called Carlos is a Badass. And you watch it, and it's like, it's edited super tight, and you see like Carlos, like, you know, like he drops a clip out, puts a clip in, snaps it, bam, 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 then hits dead center, bang, 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 does it again, like this, and it looks totally incredible.
I think I've seen this, yeah.
Right? And then the other video, so there's Carlos is a Badass, and then the other video is Carlos is a Jackass. It's all the times he fucked it up. It's like, shit, man, come on. It's like Josh keeps on fumbling it. And I'm like, we have made this double feature is the Carlos is a Badass, Carlos is a Jackass.
Yes. That is a great way to put it together.
This is it. Yes, this is it. So I don't know which one we're doing first, but Le Samouraï is a very serious, very excellently serious French film about an assassin, which is one of the most badass things I've ever seen. And then there's The Killer.
Yes. Now, but then when you look at it after seeing The Killer, then The Samouraï suddenly looks goofy.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, well, it's
yes.
It's like, well, in the way I'll say it like this, because I don't think, Samurai is still totally awesome. I don't think it loses anything.
Sure.
But like, I would say that you have to be careful.
I don't think it's goofy at all.
I think that you have to be careful the order you watch them in, simply because it's like watching Alien and Aliens back to back. Like, Aliens, I just can't take it seriously directly after Alien. Like, it's not even possible. Like, Alien is an absolutely stone cold, serious, very real feeling, extremely modern film. And then Aliens, which is also one of the great action films ever made, is like this wacko comic book with Bill Paxton, said, why did you put her in charge? And all this stuff. You're like, what fucking universe am I in? Like, we went from Yaphet Kotto and Harry Dean Stanton, where like that was the craziest comedy of Alien, to like Bill Paxton doing a stand-up routine at Flappers. Like, that's the way it works. Yeah. So Killer is The Killer is highly ironic, and Samurai is not ironic. It is absolutely earnest.
Contextually, when you see the similarities between these two and you have memories of The Killer, then Alain Delon looks goofy all of a sudden.
Well, because like they take the outfit from Alain Delon and they make it slightly dumb.
Exactly.
It's hysterical.
They make it German. Pedestrian.
Pedestrian German.
They make it pedestrian.
Yeah, it's absolutely genius. So, but I don't want to take the center stage from, say, Eric describing Le Samouraï.
No. I just I love this film, and I've watched it many, 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 many times. I think, I was reading a review for this show, and basically, I think it was. It wasn't Gene Siskel, but basically saying it, Melville basically painted it like he had a palette and he painted it like a painting.
Yes.
And that's exactly what it is. Yeah. And when you can stop a frame of a film and that still evokes the same feeling that you feel watching the movie, then you are a successful filmmaker, or at least in my eyes. You can stop a frame and be like, oh my God, that's a beautiful painting. Yeah. But it still evokes the same. For me, it's when he's outside the club and it's that blue with the grain. I can't tell you how many fashion photographers have ripped that off.
Oh yeah,
since
it's
the
incredible.
60s.
Like the tone, because it's like it's all these like these great grays and very very like very subdued colors with occasional like punches. Like it's really really highly controlled. And I think it's fair to say like the look of Melville's films in general, but the look of the Samouraï dominated my imagination of Paris and France for the longest time.
70s.
Yeah, absolutely.
Too, even though it was 68, 67.
67. And I love Melville. Melville is one of the I'm surprised that more people don't know who Melville is over here. But like Army of Shadows and Le Cercle Rouge.
Le Cercle,
so incredible. So if you've never heard of him, this is a gold mine. This guy's an absolute gold mine. And his films are like they're so tight and what's the word? Like Spartan. Like the plots are like it's long, drawn out, extremely slow but cool things happening. And that's the tone that he achieves. Really incredible.
So on this, basically it opens with a guy who it's Alain Delon, and he's in a bed in his apartment, which is very theatrical in terms of like the wall decor and the scumbling. It's got that kind of aged quality. And it is on a soundstage called Jenner Studios, which burned down in the middle of it, and a shooting. And he's in bed, and then they have a quote about Bushido or something about being a samurai. And he is basically a hitman. But the interesting thing I noticed, like in this version, I've seen this over 10 times, and I didn't really put two and two together until today. And I could be wrong. Wrong a lot of times, except when I'm right. And in the beginning, he's lying in bed, and it's a wide shot of just the room. And the camera does this focal pull.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's great.
I think really that's good. His ode to Hitchcock.
It's a Hitchcock zoom, but it's kind of a little clunky.
That's right. But it was his way of saying, the mystery starts now.
Well, yeah, and it's like it's interesting to just watch this because it's not like he's not using it for like dramatic effect in terms of like da 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 like Jaws or something like this.
No, it's just to tell you, the viewer, that like something is about to happen.
The world, specifically, the world distorts. The shape of the room changes, right? And so you're entering into a sort of real France.
Well,
like he's changing the shape of the room you're in.
Here's my interpretation, because I saw the same thing, right? So it's a flat image to start with, right? So he's using a longer lens, move further back, right? And he's smoking a cigarette. So it's a still image which the credits go over, right? And then the depth happens, which now means we're going into this world.
Sure, right.
It's a pretty
the mystery is about to start.
Yeah, but it's a depth thing, right? So you go from flat to deep. Sorry.
I understand, but that is the play, a Hitchcock play about suspense and trying to throw you off. And it's a way of saying that it's an ode to him, I thought. And it's really about like, this world is about to start. The story is about to start, which is suspenseful.
I think it's fair to say that all three of us are all these interpretations are valid interpretations. And it's also something I want to bring up about both films is that one of my favorite things about having watched both, but I thought of this specifically when I was watching The Killer, is like, it's so nice to see a film that doesn't have a monologue about what it's saying to you.
Oh my God, right? Except for The Killer, which is all monologue.
Well, yeah, but the monologue is not telling you what it's saying. The monologue is all monologue, but it is an example of what is wrong with The Killer, as opposed to like, now let's talk about what we mean with this film.
But which is funny because I'm not going to get it. But when I was watching The Killer the first time, I was like, oh God, another fucking monologue. And then I realized the irony of the entire thing.
Well, we can get into the details of that. But yeah, like both films like evoke a sort of, not like, I don't want to say political tone, but like a social critique tone.
Right.
Without ever, when no one sits down and goes, well, let's talk about how the gig economy turns us all into machines. Like, nobody ever fucking says anything like this. And I've heard many interpretations of both movies that you watch these things and people have feelings about them and interpret them in ways. Sure. And they can be various and different interpretations. But the movie is definitely setting something up that's consistent for you to experience so that you read it your way and you interpret what it is doing and saying. And that can be anywhere from it's just a straightforward assassin film to this is actually about like the police in France and the government of France to whatever, like, but it's what you are finding within your own mind about what you're watching. And so few films today respect the audience like that. And it made me think like it's really, and I tweeted this earlier. I was like, the reason why it's difficult to make good, quote, statement films, like films that are about a very important subject, right, is because all films are statements. Like all art is a statement. Like you're making a statement, right? Right. And if you're making a statement that has a really like specifically articulated statement within it that someone says out loud, you're very much in danger of putting a hat on a hat. Like if you are like, there's plenty of good statement films that say boldly what they're about, and that's fine. But you have to do it extremely well, because if you don't, then I'm already agreeing with you, and you're not letting me have my own feelings about it. Like you're telling me how to feel about it, and I think that's what most movies. There are movies that I actually avoided this year because I could feel that they were going to be like that, and it was just. Yeah, just preachy. And where it was just like, I'm going to wait until people talk normally about this.
You mean like Don't Look Up, which is like...
Yeah, like I'm going to back off. I mean, like I'm interested in seeing whatever movie, but I'm going to wait a few months. And by that point, if I don't like it, it's not going to be like, I didn't know you were a Republican. Like that I can just have an opinion about something.
Yeah. So my I'll just give you quickly, just a... my thing about my history with this film with Samouraï. When I was younger, teenage kid, I think I've mentioned many times, my buddy had like one of the early Betamaxes and had a bunch of movies, and all the movies we constantly used to watch were any movie with Belmondo or Alain Delon. Right?
Oh, yeah, they're great.
Right? And they were like the badass guys
absolutely.
From the 60s, 70s, and 80s in France, right? So like they were the Tom Cruises and the coolness, right? And Belmondo was the grittier, right?
Yeah, for sure. He's like
he's the tougher one.
He's the rugged tough. He's sort of like what's the equivalent? What's the American equivalent?
I'll tell you an equivalent. I was just thinking about this. Bronson. Okay. No, I'm not gonna go action people, but I'm gonna go dancers.
Bronson's a pretty good step. I get it.
Bronson's pretty good. I'm gonna go dancers, right?
Okay.
Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly. So Alain Delon is Fred Astaire.
It's Fred Astaire for sure.
And Gene Kelly is Belmondo.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and or what's his name? Who's in Night of the Hunter? Mitchum, like he's the Mitchum, like Belmondo is the Robert, where you're just like, that guy, I think he's still drunk.
Yeah. Alain Delon was always like the pretty boy, right?
Yes.
He was the pretty
Purple
boy.
Moon is
Noon. Purple Moon, right. Which is like if people have seen
Patricia Highsmith.
Yeah, Talented Mr. Ripley. It's
right.
It's pretty great. But he's got like these eyes that are like very pretty but very unnerving.
Yeah, no, he's an excellent actor. Or both of them are excellent actors, right?
Absolutely.
And then Depardieu is the fucking crazy one off the side.
He's the drunk
right?
uncle.
He's the drunk uncle.
But who you later figure out is like, we shouldn't have had him at family gatherings.
Oof, yeah. Oh crap, he's here. But I remember. So there was a lot of these type of like cops and robbers type of movies in France that were popular. And this one's obviously a very well respected one in some ways, but like there was a bunch of Belmondo films, Flic of Voyou or Le Professionnel, which is not the professional that we know from today.
That's called Leon. The one we're talking about.
It's called Leon. But even like I remember there was a movie that was in the 80s that was an early Luc Besson film called Subway.
I forgot about Subway.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's with Isabelle Adjani and Christophe Lambert. And,
I like that.
And this movie reminded me of that because of all the Subway stuff that was going on in it, right?
Yep.
And so I believe that there was a little bit of that in this too, right?
Yeah.
Also, French Connection took
French Connection.
So French Connection totally cribs this 100%.
Yes.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But but there was a vibe to it that watching it, like when I was a kid, and this was like, he's a badass. He's just 100% badass all the time. He is a very one-dimensional character. Badass.
Right. Yeah,
constant. Constant. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's his thing.
It is just what you see is what you get with this guy. Yeah, exactly.
That is
the Terminator.
all he is. And that's what was so cool when you were watching this as a kid, is like, he's 100% badass.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
No matter what, can't be swayed, even by the badass cop after him. No, he's more badass than the badass cop. Right. And so to me, that was it. Right. It was very, very testosterone, very much that vibe to it. Right. And other thing that I thought was interesting about it, and Eric, you brought it up, like, and it's all 1 point perspective.
Yeah, it's fucking
it's
right
all
down
like
the pipe,
down the barrel of the gun, down the barrel, like it's all like just straightforward, right? And you're right. Every frame that you see of this thing, between like that frame that Eric is behind now and at the gate, or the one in the subway that you're down, or even like from the gun point of view, from my point of view, right? Like they're all kind of like badassness, like and even when he's being interrogated.
Yeah, and like he's like, and Eric can give us the whole plot on this, but there's a long section of the film where he is just being examined by numerous people after he's been caught, and like going, "Is this him? Are we sure that's not him?" And like over and over, and his expression is
unfaltering,
just completely the same in the most unnatural way for 20 minutes.
But if you really look at
the samurai,
absolutely, it's
but
great.
Everyone is like that. No one has any emotion on any of their faces.
Well, the cop, I would say, has
barely.
Yeah, he does. Anyway. He does, but there's a lot of emotion there because a lot of those people are scared to talk.
Yeah, and I would say off of that, Eric, I would say like especially with his girlfriend, right, and
his wife,
his wife rather, and the singer, like they also have still masks, right? But you can see that something is like they're trying to remain still, like they're like, I have to be still, right? Whereas he is not doing that. He is, I have nothing here. Like there's a psychotic absence to the way that he delivers his vibe, that to me, and I agree with you, Chris, that like initially when I was younger, I was just, it's straight up badass. Now when I'm watching, I'm like, this is more kind of scary. Like this guy's kind of scary. He's a little bit of a sociopath and everyone else is a human. Like, and you're seeing little glimpses of actual humanity in him, but very, very, very little.
But
and everyone else is reacting
and
to
they
it.
established that in the very beginning. Yep. In order to do this, you have to live this life.
Yes. Yeah. Like
it's more of a theatrical, in a sense, like stage play than really anything else. But it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of those, the imagery carries you. The stillness and the kind of like the palette of that life carries you through. Plus, he's a good-looking dude. So
he's great looking, and Paris is beautiful, right? But it does have like the way that
Paris is gritty.
Paris is gritty, right? It's has
overcast.
It had like they like there's
not the Paris you know.
It's
much
not
like
a
in
romantic
the film
Paris, right?
No, it's not. It's a working class. It's a working class Paris, overcast, people going to work, and everyone seems to be working a job. Whether it's the cops who are putting a microphone in the room, By the way, them putting the microphone in the room, those two cops, I swear that influenced Bullet.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Those guys with the guns who drove the car and then burned.
Yeah.
Those two guys, the way they were silent, but just had a precision about everything they did.
Stepping through it. Yeah,
you can never do a scene like that. today.
Yeah.
That's way too long.
No one would have the patience. Yeah. It's
no
very,
one would
very
have the
rare
patience to make that
right.
happen.
Whereas I love this stuff. Like watching
I love
people
that when
do things
he puts up the giant thing and it's like, no, that's too big.
Too big. Give me the tiny one.
Why didn't you start with the other one?
Like, it's like, you think, like I was going to use the tiny one somewhere else, but like there's just no way around it. I have to use this one. But like this is because this is how I feel about movies like No Country for Old Men. Like watching people do things is innately interesting. Like I can watch people, as long as I feel like they have something in mind that they are trying to do, I will watch people just do a thing. And if there's any mote of tension to it, I'm wholesale sold. You don't even have to have any dialogue at all. I'm absolutely on board, And so like you can watch him, like he drives into the garage. His friend comes out, starts replacing the license plates, going through, and then just like the meticulousness and the slowness of it emphasizes like the intensity of the setup, and I think it's fantastic.
But he also plays it off because it's about him seeing the guy do the work. He's outside of the car, but when he goes back again, he's sitting inside of the car as he's coming in terms of trust.
Right.
And but showing that guy is more of like a respect, but everybody works for something.
Yes, exactly.
That's the thing.
Which is another connection to the killer also.
Yes, but everybody works for something. And even the people, like I can't point him out in a line and in a police line because my boss told me not to. Yep. And then everything that the police chief talks about is, well, we're all workers and how much do you care as a worker? The only person who really is not a worker bee in a sense, everyone's a bureaucrat in some sense, they work for somebody, is the boyfriend of Alain Delon's wife, Catherine. Right. In real life, they were married at the time, but she plays the girl, we'll explain it, but the point is the other boyfriend she had, and when he found out, and he doesn't even know his power because he's like, I don't have a good memory, and then he's like, oh, and then picked the hat and the thing. So he's the only non-worker because he's wealthy.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
He doesn't live on that level, and he doesn't even know what he's capable of.
Right.
But everybody else is like, oh, so much for observation. You nailed it. But he did it, and that's the only difference. So there's this class thing going on, particularly that you watch there as well. And it's a wonderful performance. I mean, you couldn't get it made today, but you couldn't paint.
There's a lot of good movies you can't make
today too. I mean,
exactly. Right.
But everything's always there to remind you. But in terms of like crib notes or like stealing, that film is flawless in terms of the look. I like the grainy look. I do.
I love it. I think this movie is like, I think it's interesting because like when I saw it when I was young, just like Chris is saying, like I just thought it was straight cool. Now I can see that there's actually a lot of layers to the movie, and there's a lot of things like just the portrayal of the police, interesting. The class in the movie, as you're pointing out, interesting. His interaction with his wife and like what the deal, like what their deal is and how that plays out with the police is fascinating. Like all these little details.
Yeah. Plus the fact that the singer was Algerian, I think.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was cool, really, and it's nice that they put that in there as well.
Well, no, there's also a class thing because that was a big split for the country in terms of like
because France
independence for
dominated Algiers. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And the independence for Algiers is covered in another movie called The Battle of Algiers.
Yes.
But yeah, like I think that this is the greatness of this movie is like, and I think it relates to both films, is like it's easy for people to read it in a very simple, straightforward way that is entertaining, but it also leads people to read it as thin when it is definitely not thin.
Not thin.
Like these movies are like they have a lot going on, and because they're not saying that part out loud doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And I think that that this is true generally for Melville, but specifically for Le Samouraï. Like this is like a very finely layered palimpsest of imagery that you don't get in a lot of American films, no matter what era you pick. Right? Like, this is a very particular kind of French film, and it's really elegant and really compact in a way that I love.
Yeah, I'm curious if our listeners have seen the guys who are live with us. If you guys have seen this movie or the other movie or both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Samouraï, we talk about it quite a bit, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
The Killer, you've been talking about constantly. It's obviously a pretty new film.
Uh-huh.
But I'm curious about, what people have seen in this.
Okay. Mr. Crow has seen only The Killer.
Yeah.
Yep. Which I think is going to be the normal. Like, I think that, like I said, I don't think too many people in America are super familiar with Melville.
Right.
I would love to be able to.
He's like a Cassavetes in a way. You have to be a cinephile, for their country.
Well, yeah, and it's also like in a way, like there's not too far a distance between this and Killing of a Chinese Bookie. Like, it's like one's a little bit more gritty and sort of like the Killing of a Chinese Bookie is very loosey goosey, but what it's doing is very, very similar. Like you think you're getting a very a simple story, and actually you're getting very, very finely written story all over the place. Really fantastic.
It's funny because the English version of the translation was the killing of the Malaysian bookie of this film. No joke. And it's so close.
I don't know why they didn't keep that for the American release.
Yeah. They actually
I think it was Vietnamese bookie,
dub,
but they couldn't do that now.
They did an overdub.
It was a very hot topic back then. Yeah, it's right.
Which got panned.
Mm-hmm.
They overdubbed this in English.
Oh, why would you do that?
In 72, they put it out again, and they did it in English, and like everyone just went ape shit. They're like, why would you do this?
It's interesting. Okay, so I should note that as well for those who are watching. The acting style and dialogue style of this film is robotic.
Yes. Yeah, it's very, very minimal. It's very
like, yes. There's like the lines are delivered like a line just read from a piece of paper.
Yep.
It is very. But
if you went to go to the DWI or went to the DMV and had some forms made out.
Yes.
It would be robotic.
Yes.
Yeah. And this is what I mean.
That's what I'm saying. Is like the lines are like.
Yeah, and like it allows you to that allows you to observe other things about what is going on. Like by making, but this is the point of minimalism. Is you want to pull down the emotion so intention is way clearer and you can see what's happening under the surface much more clearly, and like you don't get distracted by performance, which is a very
there's very little performance in this.
Yes.
It's just action.
Yeah, it's really really interesting.
I think one of the things that benefits Delon was that his wife was there, and I think they got divorced right after this.
Not long after that, no.
And it's that the connection, those moments of connections that says everything about his character too. The way he just kind of looked at her and those close-up shots. It's like there is something underneath, and that's the beautiful thing. Much like the club underground.
Yep.
Like there's something underneath going on.
Yeah.
So. Well, good night, guys. Thank you, everybody.
So, like, can we give people a sketch of the overall story?
So he wakes up in bed.
He wakes up in bed, and he has to go on a job. And he goes on a job to a really beautiful club with a beautiful.
Well, he before he goes on a job, he does a bunch of things. He takes care of a bunch of things to make sure.
All right, I'll let you explain.
No, you're supposed to.
No, you explain. No, you do it. You're on.
But doesn't he go he goes to try to cover his tracks before he goes on the job?
He does a lot of setup.
He does setup.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
He does a lot of setup.
And which is an important part of the story because that's how he gets his alibi.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'll let you continue because I'm going to screw it up. But I want to just say the most important thing in the movie are the keys.
Yeah,
because the cops use the same ring of keys. Mm-hmm. So what is the difference between him and the cops? Mm-hmm. Because when they broke into his apartment, they had a ring of keys.
Right.
Which apparently you don't need a warrant in France.
Well, but
but the point is they're no different.
No, that's the point they're making. Yeah,
and specifically,
and especially when they try to strong arm his wife.
They strong arm his wife, and the line that I really love is like the guy is like blackmailing basically his wife. Mm-hmm. The main cop, and he's like, and she's like, so just to reiterate what you're asking me to do is you want me to lie so you can catch this guy, but what I'm telling you is the truth, and if I tell the truth, you're going to fuck me over.
You're going to tell people it's like, I don't want you to commit perjury. So it's like, you want me to commit perjury so I don't commit perjury, is what she says.
Yes, exactly. And he goes, and she's like, so like you're asking me to lie. He's like, no, and he explains, because I say what is true, because I'm the
decider of truth.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm the decider of truth. And I was like, ooh, that's see, this is where I'm saying, like, there is a political edge to the film.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Right. And as sort of like reasonable as the cop seems to be, in that moment, you're like,
just as corrupt as...
Yeah, it's just like the Samouraï is actually the truthful, straightforward one.
Well, he's very linear. Yes.
Right. He is just doing the gig, and he's just doing it. Whereas the cop is the one who's being kind of sneaky and hidey.
Sneaky and hidey?
Sneaky. Heidi is another film, though.
yeah. But yes. So yeah, he does a lot of setup to prepare his alibi, and then he goes to take it away.
So he does the prep of his alibi. He goes to see his girlfriend, right? Mm-hmm. Tells her, by the way, I've been at your house from this hour to this hour, so people know, right? Mm-hmm. Then he goes to a poker game, says, I'll be back, right? So that he has presence there. Mm-hmm. He steals a car specifically. He steals a Citroën, right? Mm-hmm. Which he does by using this long ring of keys that's got about 100 keys, and he only gets about 5 keys in before he finds the key that matches.
Yep.
Right?
It's like a big janitorial ring. It's like
it's like a janitorial king of keys, right? So he uses this giant ring of keys, like 100 keys, like I said, and then he finally finds, after 5 keys, he finds the one that matches the car. And he drives off, and he goes to swap the car's license plates, and gets a gun from this guy, right? Which is what he needs. Then he goes to this club, sneaks into the club, goes through the club to the back of the club, and kills like someone that looks like
club manager,
like club manager, right? Like,
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then just walks out. But he does.
But walking out, he gets caught by the woman that is the singer.
Yes.
Or
who's Algerian.
She's walking
spotted.
She gets a good look at him.
She gets a direct look at him.
He walks right by her. It's like 3 inches away from her.
Right. And she is introduced to us as the performer on the band, and they have a little jazz band going on, and she's the main pianist or main performer of the band. And very attractive black lady.
You know what the jazz band, the name of the jazz band was? Did you catch that?
No.
The Samouraïs.
Was it really?
Just kidding.
The Algerian Revolution. No, this is political.
Yeah. So that happens. But he also should note that his dress, right, is this trench coat and black hat that almost is like cliche when it comes to sneaky guys.
Yeah, he looks like spy versus spy.
He looks like spy versus spy.
Right,
exactly right.
Yeah.
So,
but that's somehow the perception today.
Yeah. Well, but this is like this. It's something like it's like absolutely classic. World War II style. Pass the papers over on the moonlit Paris night kind of outfit. But it's Alain Delon that sells it. Like, he makes the whole thing fucking work like gangbusters because of his expression. Right. Like, if you were doing any kind of shtick with it, it would look like a cartoon, right? But instead, he's got these eyes that just fire laser beams constantly, and he can't stop. And so you're terrified of him. Like, they're slightly glassy, and they're always locked onto an object, and he doesn't blink. Like, that's basically what he does. And it's not an easy performance to do.
Right. So he throws out his gun over the bridge into the Seine, and at which point now they're looking for the killer, right?
Right.
And the police are like, this is the most organized, well-funded police organization in the world.
Yeah, like they get everybody. They're just like this.
Like, we're gonna narrow it down to everyone in Paris.
Every man in Paris.
No,
that is wearing a trench coat and a hat.
I know, but I think there's a literal take you're taking with this that is not. I mean, it's theater.
I'm not taking it wrong.
I am not. I know. So you're not supposed to think like
if you're hearing it as a criticism, it is not a criticism.
It is not.
But it's an observation that can be construed like the whole point of the film is theater.
Yes, absolutely true. I mean, that's kabuki style.
So,
like
but it's like going to theater and saying, "Gosh, that was so theater-like." I felt like
that's what I'm saying. Is that these are like
I just want people to get the vibe of what's happening because if you're going to watch this film,
you
have to.
The most well-organized police department.
Well, like as if we were talking about
is a critique in a sense of like it doesn't seem believable.
No, that's definitely not what we mean.
I don't think that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah,
like what I was trying to say.
No, like if we were talking about a Wes Anderson film, it'd be like this. Like I think the camera can only operate on 90-degree angles. That's true.
Yeah, but you said,
but like,
I just want to clarify, and I don't want to be caustic. All I'm saying is, when you say it's the most well-organized police department, and sarcastically, there's a sense of if it's not a believable setup, or it's not a believable world.
It is not a believable setup.
It is not intended to be a realistic setup.
That's right.
That doesn't necessarily because it's not believable doesn't mean I'm criticizing it, right?
Yes.
I just want people to understand with the way that this looks is like we have in the matter of 20 minutes gotten all the men in Paris that are wearing trench coats, hats, and happen to have a gun.
Yeah. This is a. Right,
I know, but the other thing, if I can point out. Gun violence, particularly in 1967 in Paris, is different than the gun violence today.
Yes, absolutely.
Sure. So when somebody gets murdered execution style, essentially, in a place in the middle of essentially a night at a club, that's a big deal.
Right. Well, of course. But the thing is the theater of this movie starts with the fact that it's an assassin movie because assassins aren't real. Like there's no like assassins that
they write it in the beginning. The samurai.
Like this is not a real thing. Like people that are actual like, when you do like hits and stuff like that, like this, like that's like mob shit or gang shit and things like that. There's no like professional assassin people that live in Spartan
even
apartments.
If it was
that's a cartoon.
I know,
corporation.
But I think you're misinterpreting it. Like even if it was a mob hit, an execution style hit, whether it's New York or Paris in 1967 with a gun assassination,
would be a very big deal.
It's a big fucking deal.
Well, 100%.
And so when you're talking about the cops like getting all circling around and looking for suspects, it's a big fucking deal. Well, New York City cops will do the same thing. Because in 1967, it wasn't like, LA today.
Yeah, well, I mean to reinforce your concept that this is theatrical. Like it's meant to be theatrical, right? And the idea that you're going like if people try to read this movie realistically, you're watching an assassin movie, so you're already watching something that isn't realistic. Like that it is an assassin is a heightened metaphor. It's an idea. It's not a real thing. There are assassins in the world, but not the way that movies portray them, right? And certainly not the way that this movie portrays. This is an iconic concept, just like if you're doing kabuki theater, right? And everything that happens in it is not only sort of larger than life, like the reaction from the police and everything. Everything is very, like everything is both extremely, and what makes the movie interesting is it's extremely exaggerated, but then played very rigidly.
That's right. But do you not just get that from the first frame?
That's what
the first frame is his apartment.
Exactly.
And his apartment has ceiling heights of 18 feet.
This is right.
And it's like everything about it is not real, but it's real.
This is why I was saying. If I can just build off it, that's why I pointed out the use of the trombone shot, the push pull of the camera, right, is because you are watching it's saying
that's right.
You are watching a distortion.
So when I'm pointing out how the police suddenly organize all of this thing to happen, that's me pointing that out.
Being good at what it's doing.
Of interpreting this whole scenario. Right. I'm not saying this is a stupid movie, right?
No.
And so I want people to understand, like Caesar, for example. Hold on, let me finish here. Caesar has not seen this movie. I want him to give context in terms of how this thing progresses. And I'm like, oh, wait, what? Right. And then that is the sort of scenario that's going on. So also what that points out is how quickly the police react and how like, oh crap, man, they get all these people together right now, so he can't just walk away scot-free, right? So it becomes more challenging for him.
And I also love the idea that it pulls in all these guys from the streets of Paris, and so many of them are essentially Le Samouraï. Like, it's just like...
They all look like him.
They all look like him. Like, everyone... It's like, this is another part of the theater. It's just sort of like, we pulled in the men of Paris, and they're all fucking sociopaths. You know,
right.
like,
and then it's like this guy's
really
like, no, I'm just a normal guy. It's like, yes, but you have all this criminal record.
Let me read this record of you being a sociopath, and that's why you're carrying a gun, because you're crazy.
But he is clearly the best looking out of all of them.
Oh, without a doubt.
Oh my God,
like, of course, he's still Antonin. But I mean, like, the idea, like, this is why... This
like
is why
walking into the DMV, and then Brad Pitt shows up.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what this is? A lot of this kind of... So much of that first act up to the second act takes place in this tight set, even in the beautiful kind of suspect room where everybody goes for the lineup. It's like Usual Suspects.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it's also literally theater. Like, it's an auditorium where people are up on stage, right?
And there's a guy in the back on a desk on a platform. Right?
Yes, exactly. I mean, like, it's literally like auditions. Like it's really interesting.
Yeah.
You know, and so like it carried like the theatrical, like, so like, I guess like when you, like, it's hard to give people the idea that, because when you say something is theatrical, right, you expect Wes Anderson. And this is not that. It has an element of that in that everything is extremely heightened. Well, but at the same time, it's also extraordinarily minimal. So what you're really looking at is something like a Hopper painting. Like, Hopper does not represent reality. He represents an iconicization of reality. And that's what this does.
All right. I think my point is, when I say theatrical, the way the characters are set up, the way you follow all the characters, particularly the police chief, it's a play.
Absolutely true.
And it's not Wes Anderson. Okay, but I see it.
Just to be clear, what I said was it is not like Wes Anderson. That's why, what I'm pointing out is that when we say there are things that are theatrical about this, people may imagine that we're talking Wes Anderson.
It's a play.
It is not Wes Anderson.
Or 12 Angry Men, but it's definitely constrictive.
It is heightened. It is very heightened,
and you follow these characters. I don't think. I think it's. I think the use of the space too, these large rooms, is just not real, but
it's very
in a beautiful way.
Yeah, it's very stagey and roomy. Like,
and you never really go outside.
Yep.
A lot in the first act.
Yep.
I mean, it's in that great room.
Yep. But that's very true.
I definitely think deeper down there's this kind of working class, particularly when you see everybody lined up and with all the policemen there in that space. There's a class kind of structure or commentary.
Well, there's actually a shot that I really love when the guy is on the phone, like one of the cops is on the phone, and the frame is divided in half, right? You see the cops on the phone, and then you see a bunch of men, right? That are all the suspects and cops, but it's like a high angle, long lens, zoomed up, so you just see this stack of guys all up on one side, right? And it's like, it really makes it like surreal for a moment. Like, you're like, I don't even know what the space is here. This is very strange. This hallway full of men, and this one giant open room with a phone. Like, it starts to look like a like Playtime or something like this, like a depressing version of Playtime. And it's really, really stunning. And like, he just folds this into like this generalized sense of naturalism, but what you're looking at isn't natural. It's a completely unique flavor.
Absolutely. Anyway, Chris, sorry, continue.
No, you continue.
You've continued. You hijacked
the whole point.
No, you please finish up.
So yes, he gets interrogated. So what happens during the interrogation, Eric? You
continue. Honestly, I'm trying to figure out where you stopped.
The interrogation. So remember, he gets up on the stage and he starts interrogating him. So what happens they start interviewing a bunch of people then they're trying to figure out who they are. They have a series of witnesses, including the black woman, right? And a bunch of people from the club that saw someone there. And they're asking him, is this the right person? Is this the right person? And all of them say no, right? To the other people until Alain Delon.
The older one.
Yeah, and then when it gets to
Alain
him,
Delon shows up.
And the only person to turn to say, I think it's him, is the older people.
Yeah, right.
There's two of them.
And one of them is really aggressive about it. Just like, I know
they
it's
are.
him.
And it's almost like this is, because I think at that time too, between the separation of Algiers, there was a big split in France.
With youth and older.
And also, the older people saying, why would you let all the Algerians come to France?
Yes.
And then the younger people contesting that.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that the old people were the only people accusing him.
It's old France. Yeah.
Old France.
Exactly.
And then the only person who actually was completely right, but yet didn't realize he was right, was the wealthy guy.
That's right.
Who was the only wealthy guy there.
That's right.
Do you know what I mean? Like everybody else was bureaucrat, working class.
Right.
And that's a kind of a weird. I didn't notice that until this one, where all of a sudden I was like, "Why are all the old men just dissing on Delon?"
Fuck
because
that guy.
they were like,
well, I saw it's mainly because they weren't in on what's going on.
Right.
Well, they all work at the club.
Yeah, but she was in on it the whole time.
It is revealed later. Yes, exactly.
Right, and so they're all like protecting. They're all the younger
she was
ones
in
were
on it,
smarter
but
about what's going on.
The blonde girl who was
the coat check.
She's indifferent. She's like,
she's indifferent, but she's still. There was a people like the bartender. They saw who it is, but they were told to keep quiet.
Right.
But it's just the old people who were just like, nah, he did it.
And but the sense of I love the structure of this entire sequence because like they step through every element of this. They're like, how about this guy? Ask him some questions. Then we're going to go to you. Is that him? No. Is it him? No. Is it him? No. Is it him? Yes. And it times it out. Like they go through that phase, and then they bring all them into.
Take a long time to go through people too.
Like they go through a long time to go through people.
It's a psychological thing.
And like every step is like building up a little bit of tension because like as far as we're concerned, like Alain Delon is right there, and you're like, that's the guy. Like, it's the guy. You're waiting for someone to realize.
He's the most handsome man in a room. There's no way
he stands out like a sore thumb. He's just like,
I was thinking too, like when you're watching this and you see that he did it because you're a theater goer, why subject him to a long lineup or the viewer when we already know? There's no cut to the chase on that.
Yeah, because
which is a beautiful way of storytelling, but it's still like,
we know
it's, of course, but we know it's him.
Yeah,
but
we know
still
it's him.
have to sit through and see every
we are both
guy
on his side, and also like someone should stop this man. And we like it's just like, is he?
Are we on his side because he's beautiful?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Right. And so because the longer it goes on, because he is doing nothing outside of saying that he's not the man. He's doing nothing to hide who he is. Like it's not like he
wears the same hat and coat.
Yeah, like it's just like
no joke.
He is exactly he is the killer. That's what it is, right? And he's just going through the process, and you're just watching everybody like, are you guys going to figure this fucking thing out or what? Yeah. And they bring him into the second phase, or they bring him into the investigator's office.
They show him, so just so like between where he shot the guy and where he entered the club is the club itself, right?
Right.
And they show him like inconspicuously kind of fast walking through the whole thing where everyone is looking at him leave the club.
Yeah, exactly.
So they all know it's him.
Right.
It's only the people that are not in on the, oh shit, we need to be quiet.
So everyone is feeling tense over like, I don't want to be the person who identifies this fucking maniac because then I might get killed. So like there's this weird there's this bizarre tension that's building through this entire
So just to be clear, everyone in that lineup actually recognized him. The two people that identified him as the killer are the people that didn't realize they probably should not identify him.
Right. So you're waiting for the power structure to flip
because it's a generational thing.
That may also be true.
You could that's a perfectly valid interpretation, but I see them more like they're clueless. Right.
Yeah.
I actually see them as if you want to make it generationally speaking, like they're not in on what's important and what's not important. Right.
They're just not hip. They're not
hip. Right.
Well, their stake is, they have no stake meat in the game.
Right.
Right.
Like they're not being hip. It's just.
Right. Well, yeah, no, like the hip thing is the meta aspect that I think Chris is pointing out, which is just like there's a generational flavor that's happening here. Right. And for the audience, like, the young hip people are probably siding with the assassin, and the older people may not are siding with the law. There's a flavor to that reflects both, France in the 60s and also say America in the 60s.
Right.
And that's the tension that's really happening in the room. There's the old bureaucracy versus the young hip club people who are in on the know, but also, there's a tightness to that. And so when they bring them from the stage and then bring them into the second part of the interrogation and sort of funneling them in, it starts to focus down on specifically the singer, because it's basically the young Algerian singer versus old France. And old France is the old French guy is just doesn't just say that's him. He stands up and walks face to face with Delon and goes, I absolutely know it's him. It says it right into his eyeballs. Right.
Yes. But he's got an alibi. His alibi was he was with his girlfriend. Right.
And so
which we've established at the beginning. He went to his girlfriend's make sure I was here between
of his alibi. He's still
and
protected.
His hours are so precise, between 7:45 and 1:15.
So ridiculous. Right. And so it goes through it, and it keeps on the camera's slowly closing in and moving from person to person, and finally lands on the singer, and that's when it cuts to an A/B shot between them. So they're really looking at each other, and the guy's like, "Is this him?" And she goes, "I'm absolutely certain it's not him." And it cuts to him, and he's like, what the fuck is going on? He's
because he knows, because he looked at her straight in the eyes as he left the room after he shot.
It's obvious, right? And he just says,
Indecent Proposal with Sharon Stone, Dan. It seemed like at that scene, as kind of beautiful as the interrogation room was, and the carpet in it, it set the standard for interrogation rooms.
Oh, absolutely.
Remember the Sharon Stone one where she
it's a Basic Instinct. Is the way
Basic Instinct,
right?
Decent Proposals. That's
Demi Moore and Woody Harrelson. And Robert Redford. But it burns all the way down to that, and then and then it's just him and the cop left, and he's like, "Can I go?" And the cop's like, "You bet." And then the moment he leaves, the cop's like, "Okay, keep on going through the process." And then he's like, I'm going to get that fucking guy anyway. He knows the whole time.
He doesn't say that. He doesn't say that. He's very robotic and monotone. There's no emotion to this. He's just
it isn't until he reveals that's what he thinks. But upon many watchings, you're like, he thinks this the whole time. He's just going through the bureaucracy of what he has to go through.
Right. He realizes.
Don't they talk about the tiger in the beginning? The phrase in the beginning. The tiger is the only
word at the beginning.
The tiger is the only threat to the samurai.
Yeah, right. And so this guy, the cop, becomes a character over the course of this interrogation, right? And he is I can't fuck around. Well, when there's this many people around, I have to play by the rules, right? But the closer you get in on the cop, the more. Until it's very, very up close, you can tell he's like, I will play by the rules in public, but when it comes down to it, I will do whatever the fuck I want. I just need to get in close enough to get what I want. And then he'll change the rules.
The text is, I looked it up. There's no greater solitude than that of a samurai, unless it is that of a tiger in the jungle.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and I think it's really interesting how they draw the samurai himself, Alain Delon is what you get. You see it, you understand who he is, and he consistently plays that character. It's the cop that is the one who is a very mercurial character through this.
Yes.
Initially you think he's a just pure bureaucrat, and then slowly you're like, well, he is a hunter. He's got a bureaucrat.
But the interesting thing about it also is Delon's name is Jeff Costello.
Is
so
bonjour, Jeff.
It's so weird. It's almost
Jeff is not a French name. Costello is not a French
name.
No, it's an Americanization, an homage kind of thing. So
it's Abbott and Costello. It's because that's who you're going to think of, right? Especially the French who love American movies. You're not going to name somebody Costello.
His name in the movie was Jerry Lewis.
Yeah,
Hello, Jerry.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. It's what is that? shoot. Oh yeah, that in the original American release of Godzilla, where they cut in Raymond Burr. His character's name is Steve Martin. That's my favorite. But yeah, so like after all that, he is released.
I should also there was a really interesting, like, the way he gets arrested, right? Mm-hmm. He goes back to the poker game in the hotel.
It's great, and that's Melville, I think.
Is that in the scene?
I think Melville's like one of the guys,
one of the poker players.
That's great.
Yeah, the big older guy with a kind of blocky head who goes to sleep and then he gets up at the end. I think that was him. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I thought
basically it's this very, very sort of cliche poker game of these guys like playing games in a room.
Yeah.
And the cops just kind of randomly come in and is like, okay, we need to see your papers. And they're like, paper. And they're like, no problem. And they keep playing cards while the cops are like rampaging through the room. Like, this is normal, right? Like, it's the Gestapo just walked in.
Yeah, just bored. Yeah.
And it's like, huh? And then the owner's just like, keep playing. It's like, oh, we need to see you. Okay, I'm out. And then he just walks out the door with the cops. Yep, right. And it's just very weird, like, how that whole scenario happens.
Because he's just bagged and he just plays it straight the whole time.
Yep.
It's interesting. I honestly, and I know one of you guys mentioned it earlier, but I'm looking at the stills because we're talking about it and I brought them up. I mean, there's even like train stuff. That's French Connection, where he meets the guy that betrays him and shoots him in the arm.
Yeah.
And this was before French Connection. It was like, wow, that really is French Connection.
Definitely saw this and definitely was like, I'm doing this. I'm doing the scene. I'm going to do hop off the subway just in time. It's a bit. I'm going to do the whole thing. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and Friedkin's always very straight. He was always very straightforward about that. Like, I mean, he's just like, I saw this French movie and I really liked it, so I ripped it off. Like, that's what he does.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's great though, and his own language though, Melville's language is awesome. I mean, it's like, you know, you're talking about Wes Anderson. You either dig it or you don't.
Yeah,
you buy into that world and you get something from it.
Yeah,
strangely though, I've seen it so many times. I know you guys have, and it's like, it still holds up.
Oh, it's fucking great. I love this movie. Like, this is. I
think it'd be hard for someone to watch this today. Like, for us, not a problem. But I think you know what I said to those guys? Watch more fucking movies. Yeah, I understand.
But that's why
get a deeper movie education.
A couple of years ago, I said, you know, maybe film is going to become like opera today.
Yeah,
and
I think
that would suck, but I think it could very well.
This kind of film has
become like opera.
Yeah. You know, and I think that the taste for this kind of material.
There is a lot. You know what? There's actually a lot of John Wick.
Oh sure, yeah, I see.
John Wick has a lot of that opera, funky,
super
unbelievableness,
super like crazy opera. And it's amazing. I love that stuff.
I think what I was applying is like, today opera is kind of like respected but not accessible by a lot of people,
right?
And a film like that in 100 years could just very well be.
I think opera. That, I mean, not to sound too much like an old grumpy man, but I think that
you sound like an old dude.
I am an old dude.
We are all old dudes. We're starting to lose a lot of melanin in our hair follicles. I'm just putting it that way,
man. But I feel like this is not a generational statement. I don't mean the young don't blah blah blah. Like, I mean, everybody, including old people, have lost a sense of art being something that you engage. And that you chew on and think about and take your time with and invest in, and rather are just like, entertain me. It's your job to entertain me. So if I don't get you in the first pass, I'm out. If it's not if it's not immediately kicking me, then it's bad. And I'm just like, how do you get through a novel? Like any novel?
They don't.
I'm just like
it's laudable.
Yeah, I mean, just like like the idea of art shouldn't be as like a quick turnaround response. It totally can be, but to reject it because it takes some investment of your time, and some concentration and some thought, like, that's too bad. I think that people are missing out on deeper things that you can't experience from shorter, maybe punchier things, but like, you don't get the deep experience. And there's stuff that you can only do that takes a lot of time and takes a lot of engagement. So there you go. And in movies like this, like, you don't see what it's doing if you're just like, can you just fucking shoot somebody, please? Like, that's not going to happen.
Well, you mentioned John Wick earlier. I love John Wick, the new one.
Yeah.
Oh, it's incredible. Yeah.
But it's still like a video game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't draw a difference between
what's wrong with a video game.
Yeah. Like video games are art as well.
Yeah.
Like, I think that people's vision of what art is become extremely narrow. And that's and that has nothing to do with being young or anything. It has to do with, like, we are very easily distracted so I meet people much older than I am that don't have the attention span to tackle a very serious novel or a long movie.
No, there's lots of people like that.
Yeah. And
lots of people like that. They're just like, I just want to watch, Die Hard and I'm done.
Yeah.
Right?
And so do I. I mean, I also
sure, but that's because we have a bigger tolerance for that stuff, right?
And I don't think I'm better or smarter for liking that stuff. I just think I have because I do take the time. Like, I can get at something that's actually harder to get at. It's like an acquired taste. Like, you can't just like go and have like whatever, pick your weird food, like, and be like, oh, it's delicious. Like, some weird foods, you're like, do I like this? And then you have to sort of like experience it for a little while, and then you discover something in it that's incredibly unique. Well, you don't get there on the first pass. And I think that's really what it's about. It's not about being smart. It's not about being better. It's not about being shishi or in the know. It's just about taking your time to really investigate yourself and your own response to something that's happening. And that's what art's really about. And I don't think we do that very much anymore. It's not encouraged. And and people miss out on that. And so, like, I don't think it has to do with youth. I don't think it has to do with money. I don't think it has to do with anything. But
it's just too much of everything.
It's just that people are not encouraged to take their time to investigate themselves in what they are experiencing.
Right.
And so that's why the movies, like, to wrap it around to what I said earlier, like, most movies today pronounce what they are about very directly. So that they are on your side, and then you can like them, like, as opposed to, all sorts of fucking, I dare you to watch fucking, Satan Tango and figure out politically how you feel about that in the first 3 minutes. Like, it's not going to happen, and you'll find something else about yourself if you stay through the entire film, if you stay with it. And I think that this movie is a very entertaining movie, I think, but it does have levels and layers and richness and a painterly quality to it and a deeper meaning that you can dig into as far as you want. Like, this has to do with the politics of France of its time, and it's interesting. All of it is very interesting. But if you're looking for John Wick, well, watch John Wick. That's just how it goes.
Would you say that about The Killer?
I think, like, I think The Killer is my favorite movie of the year, and
I like The Killer. I've seen it.
Killer is brilliant, and Killer is very fast paced and it does a much better job.
Well, it's more approachable than today's.
It's much more approachable.
Right.
It's very fast paced. It's conscious of being entertaining for its audience, for its Netflix audience, and it also does a lot of the work that it needs to do to be deep. But you can see that there's a requirement up front to have a payoff in order to sell. Like, and Fincher is very aware of that, and so he does that. And I think he does that with all of his films. Like, I think Fincher is a great artist, but he is very aware of the money game, and he's not out there making fucking, Old Joy or Ratcatcher. He's out there making The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. So he is a business-minded artist, and I get it.
I think Melville, though, was too. His movies were always small, and compact, and like a team. He seemed like a really
this movie was, again, remember, like, this isn't My Dinner with Andre, right? This is a movie that was approachable to 14-year-old boys.
Absolutely.
They're looking at this, right? You know what I mean? So this is not an unapproachable film. It is slow by today's standards. But
it is unapproachable by today's standards.
Right.
I think that's fair to say.
But back then it was like, oh God, look at a badass that Alain Delon is, right? And so this is a very approachable film in many ways.
Within its context. But
and it's not. This isn't like this. At a tertiary glance, this isn't a heady movie at all.
Right.
No,
exactly.
There's
right.
no way you can.
It's very straightforward.
Right? So it is very, you're not going, oh boy, I need to sit there. You can totally digest this at all. Right. It's not until afterwards did you sort of look at things.
There's a lot of subtle flavors in that
thing going on in this than I thought, right?
Exactly.
So it's not at all heady. It is actually almost the most straightforward film. It is telling you every step of the way.
This is the key, right? It's like making an assassin movie, and Fincher's basically talked about this. Like making an assassin movie is like there's a by the numbers thing that you have to fulfill. It's like Westerns. Like there's things that you have to do for it to be an assassin movie, and like this is what it's about. And those things are automatically entertaining. Like that's the cadence of the poet. That's the cadence of the poem you've chosen, right? And people are like da 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 da. Got it. Okay, that's how the poem goes, and it's what you do within the format that makes it art, And I think that
a haiku.
Say again?
Like a haiku.
Like a haiku, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And so this movie, I think you're absolutely right that this is popular entertainment from the 60s. But what you're saying, Eric, and I agree, is like that this movie isn't in the realm of popular entertainment today. This is art film today.
Well, if they're still copying it in some way, it is an art film.
Right.
In terms of speed and appreciation and the depth of appreciation.
I mean, this is something we've covered a great deal, and this is the point of this podcast in a lot of ways, is that we're looking at films specifically that have been copied for reason, right? Referential material, right? So if we're all talking about, this is the reason why we're covering the Samouraï with the Killer, is because we want to make sure people know the roots of the Killer,
the roots of the Killer, exactly.
Right? And the same thing that we did with the Searchers and True Grit, right? So it's like there was reasons why we covered the Searchers, right? And there's reasons we cover all of these films because these are the ones that are like the reflection of what it is. I just remember like when I was at DD ages ago, and I used to play music at my desk, and I was one of the assholes that played it over speakers, but no one seemed to mind. And I was playing a Tears for Fear version of Mad World, and someone was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "This is the original song."
The first time
they thought it was a remake, and they didn't realize
it's a cover of Mad World.
No, it's the original one, right? And it's the same thing as like Gangster's Paradise versus the Stevie Wonder version, which is not Gangster's.
Oh my God!
Yeah. Right. And so people don't realize where things come from, the origins, and not necessarily they should.
And it doesn't make things better or worse. Well, it only just makes it interesting. All this stuff is interesting.
But it's knowing where things come from are important. And this film, obviously, the Samouraï, is very influential, like you said, French Connection and The Killer. But The Killer is the one that's most recent. Right. And I think that's what's very interesting is that while this film, The Samouraï, in some ways, while it's a kind of popular from 1960s, you cannot deny that this does not feel very dated when you're watching it.
Well, it's of its time. I prefer to say of its time.
By dated, I mean of its time dated, right? It feels like
you can identify it very quickly as being 60s France.
But if I watch the Ambersons, it's the same thing.
Absolutely, and yes, but I'm just saying that this film from 1960s feels very 1960s, but I'm sure it felt very like the surveillance systems that the cops had seemed fancy in this film, right? But it's at the same time, this film is very, very of its time, and yet still today, 2023. We're almost verbatim referencing it in The Killer by Fincher, right? And Fincher's a very well-respected director.
That's what I was trying to say earlier, was that the fact that we're still referencing it and talking about it says a lot about, Melville's work.
Yeah.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying but it's interesting because it's like if someone watched it today, I was like, ugh. They'll watch The Killer, it's like, that's great. And it's like, and then they watch this one, I was like, eh.
Well, so there's like
slow. I'm not saying that. I'm putting a lot of assumptions on what young people would say when they see this film.
Well, no, but that's wrong. What I'm saying is it's not young people. This is also old people say the same thing. Like this is not a generational issue at all. Like in fact, I would say that if I were to actually critique generationally, I would say that most young people have a much greater attention span for art because they play video games that are 128 hours long. Like that's a fuckload of focus on a very, very like layered, deep storytelling. But as far as like film goes, film has been popularized to the point that it's disposable, right? And people are not encouraged to engage it in any other way than disposability, far more so than any other time. And we come in and out of phase with that. That's not because like, oh, well, you know, they did better in the olden days. It's just like right now we're in a moment where this is not encouraged. And that's when you have the danger of it becoming opera. Opera still exists, still appreciated, but it's very rarefied.
But then you get like this week, you get the exciting thing for film is that trailer for Civil War.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, yeah, the language of film can really, get people talking.
Absolutely. I mean, well, this is the thing is like, I don't mean to like I'm not dissing. I am not dissing.
The mic closer to your face.
The power film.
Yeah, because I'm not in any way dissing faster cut, more entertaining stuff as not art. Like that's not true. John Wick, super fast, really intense, blah blah blah.
I think John Wick is art.
It's art. Absolutely art. Like that's good. Yeah, that's real stuff, right? And so like I don't think that like and I'll say the same things about like there are TikToks that I think are pure art. There's like, I mean, so none of that, like, it's not off the table because it's, God damn it, no. But like, there's certainly loads of stuff on YouTube. Like there's nothing about the speed of delivery that makes it more or less art. It's only our ability that if it takes more investment on our side, do we choose to do it? And I think that for some things it's encouraged and for other things it's not. Right now, film is on the decline.
Okay, I want to get through a little bit through the plot because I think there's some important parts of it. So that at least I observed, and we can continue to do this, and I think we touched on some of it. But as the cop goes through the initial investigation in the police station, he is going very much by the numbers, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, this, where were you? I was here, blah, 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 blah. He's not doing the typical good cop, bad cop interview, right? It's just asking straight questions, getting straight answers. I was here at my girlfriend's. Yeah. And it was like, okay, well, call her. Yep. Okay. Done. Right? Done. Like there was, and he's like, he's got an airtight alibi. Right. Okay. Right. And that's the thing is like, there's no question to him, but the cop knows like, this is the guy. Obviously this is the guy that we have to find to do it. They're still investigating other people. This is the guy, at which point that's when the cop sort of does this. When you're like, wait a minute, you're going over the line, right? Mm-hmm. They bug his crappy apartment.
Yeah. Like once the cop says that's him,
bug seemed highly, the only thing was when you look at it, today's technology, that little box is going to pick up through the drapes like the bird, like chirp, chirp, chirp.
That's pretty good. That's good. Pretty good speaker right there. Yeah. But like I love that it's all like you're saying, Chris. It's like for the longest time, it's procedural for the police. It's all bureaucratic. But as soon as the cop goes, it's him. All fucking ethics are out the window.
Yeah. Right. Just like that, like so obviously out the window, right? Yeah. And so like, his biggest hurdle is his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Right. Who he has to get her to crack because with her saying that he was with me, that's all he has. So he barges into her house with two young cops, right? Which again, Eric, this is actually a good point that you make about the old guys and the new guys, right? He's like, well, these are the young guys. You know, they're zealous. I'm not as zealous.
Yeah. I don't need to.
I used to be zealous like them when I was young, but now I'm not zealous. And they're just rampaging through her stuff.
Not very well, too. They'll just overturn one cabinet and then the other one.
I don't think they're actually looking for it. They're just in there to just tip
psychological.
Psychological. So that's the point, right? And so he asks her. He basically is trying to crack her. He's like, "Where is he?" I was like, "I know he's with that black woman right there." Right?
Did you notice that when the cops came into her apartment? They took her whole Blu-ray collection and they threw it to the ground.
Physical media, what are you doing?
That is Blu-ray.
I can't get a goddamn copy of To Live and Die in LA and you throw that out the window.
This is a signed copy of X-Files. What are you doing?
But yes, and so he tries to crack her, and he's like, if you looks like you're committing perjury, you can get this much time. A young girl like you, I've got a daughter like you, and it's left 5 years is a long time, etc. And she doesn't do anything, and like her line is great. It's like, okay, so, you're telling me I need to commit perjury so that I don't go to jail.
Perjure myself. Thanks. All right.
Yeah, and then he says, "I say the truth because I'm the cop." And so anyway, they walk out, right? and it doesn't go well, right?
Like, because he's like, so I mean, he thinks he has it in the bag, and she's like, so what is your answer? And she's like, no.
The way he taps her on the nose with his paper was so condescending.
I know.
No, he's
it's
being
weird how I hated him by the end of that. So I was just like, I was on your side, and now I fucking hate you. Dude.
That's right.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
Yeah, he's very much an asshole.
Yeah. I just have to say, when we're talking about physical media right there, Eric with Jason, I'm sorry, with Sacre Blu-ray.
Sacre Blu-ray.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah,
but no, it's a great little turn. Like, I mean, he turns so much as a character. That's fantastic.
Right. He seemed like this guy that you like him as a character and his leadership, and then all of a sudden he's like this Noah Cross guy.
Exactly. Like, I really feel like this is a weird investigation of France. Like, I think that's what's really happening.
Because there's a huge generational thing, particularly with the lineup and the way people looked at the lineup. Yeah. And you know what's the most telling thing was, like, the way when they snuck into his place, they put the crap in there, and then he comes back and it goes to the hotel and the hotel light turns off. Yeah. So it means like the hotel people are involved in this.
Yes,
it's like, so like everything is like
in the bag.
Like they're just everyone turns on each other. Yeah, I'll help you guys, the cops.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very really corrupt because I'm like, you know, that doesn't make sense. You just literally break into someone's house. They break into people's houses all the time. It's like, wait a minute. They're acting like mobsters.
Yeah, exactly.
They are mobsters, and they have the same set of keys as him, the same crap. And I totally realized on this version, like, they have the same kind of ring, and they were trying the different keys to get into his apartment. Right. And notice what a great neighbor that Dillon has. The guy just walks out. It's like, oh, some strangers walking up. He just keeps walking. How about, like, can I help you? And for those who lived in New York, you'd want a neighbor to kind of help you out here.
Right.
Like, you know, there's a stranger outside your door.
Yeah, no, I think it's really fascinating. And so, like, this is the kind of movie where I'm just like, to reinforce it. It's like this kind of movie where it's like, it's good. It's a good time on top, but it's a meaty time underneath. Like, where you can, like, you're like, oh, this is really fun. And then later on you're like, this is really sticking in my brain. Like, that's what this is the kind of movie I love best, where it seems really simple and actually evokes big things in your mind. I think that is absolutely terrific.
Do you think it would be appropriate if, like, well, they already did it with The Killer, but making it like The Killer is an homage, I guess. We'll have to listen to you about that later. But if somebody said, we're just going to make Les Samouraï over again, you know, pep up the script a bit, but just basically shoot it again like Psycho, do you think that could work? Just a strange question.
I don't know if that would be makeable.
Yeah, no,
they did it to Psycho, right, in the 90s?
Yeah, and, like, how good was that?
Well, the thing is, like, because even Gus Van Sant, who directed that version, Gus Van Sant's a good director.
He's a good filmmaker.
Right,
yeah.
and he's like, and he made that, and he agrees with the critiques. He's just like, yeah, it doesn't work. And he's like, I made this because I wanted to see if you replicated something, a great work of art, exactly, would it lose something? And the answer is yes. Like,
yeah, and there's something mysterious. There needs to be a time that it takes place in, right?
Yep, exactly.
We're not at the time. We're not at a time that makes sense right now.
People carry around keys like that all the time.
I know, I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like
it's just USB dongles, though.
It's
imagine having a whole thing of USB dongles for like different software.
Yeah,
like V-Ray. No, V-Ray 1.6. No. Very point 1.9.
No. What if it was, you know, it was like a fingerprint scanner and you just had a ring which full of fingers that you used?
No. You only get to try 3 more fingers. The best thing
what was it in Blade Runner when Robin Wright Penn, they take the face or her face and he puts it up to the screen. That was the best.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so good.
Probably would.
God, I love that movie. Yeah, it's a good movie.
I do love that movie.
Okay, so just because we need to get through this.
You had mentioned that we have to cut down the talk about films a lot.
Yeah, we can't talk about movies. No, we're doing a good job. It's just
like we over-explain it.
No. The sum up of what the movie is, the plot of the movie. But we're trying to keep that a little more slender and not string it out through the entire thing. Just like deliver it at once. And I'll try to do that with The Killer. I bet we can. It's all good.
Right. So basically, not getting cooperation. They're still trying to nail him. Mm-hmm. He is Alain Delon. He tries to collect his money for the hit that he got. The guy who is going to pay him tries to shoot him instead. Mm-hmm. He gets away, right?
Because it was all gift cards. He's like, I can only pay you in gift cards.
Amazon gift cards.
And he had a whole backpack full of gift cards.
Get to this call center in India to collect your gift cards.
I don't want gift cards. I want the money.
Can I just return this? No, probably not.
It's like, here's $1,000 Amazon gift cards.
Gift cards.
I don't go to Pizzeria Uno this much.
I don't like it. You'll love it. Try it.
Yeah, it's really
Look,
really
here's a Starbucks one. You go to Starbucks. You can use it for the next 10 years.
And if you buy it during the week, then you get more points. And it's getting extra money. It's nice. Great.
Yeah. So he gets shot. So he's recovering from being shot, and there's a bunch. Anyway, but he also visits the girl, the jazz girl. Mm-hmm. And that is sort of like, another relationship. That's
like he's trying to figure out like what the fuck is going on here. Like who
is the guy who's trying to kill him?
Why did you say you didn't know who I was?
Right.
And she has been paid to not say, to not identify him.
Right.
So like there's a larger scam going on that he is sort of like not aware of because he's just a plug and play guy.
Yeah, but everybody's on a scam. The guys who run in the poker place and they pretend they're asleep.
The cops are a scam.
A scam. It's everything is a scam. Right. Everyone's on the dole. Everyone's just figuring out.
Yeah.
And then you have the old guy saying, that's the guy. That's the guy.
And then they start singing La Marseillaise, like run ta ta. And you're like, not now, man.
Didn't they try? I know that Day of the Jackal covers this, but because Chris, you speak French and you understand French culture, you live there, that when De Gaulle basically annexed Algeria, weren't people trying to kill De Gaulle at one point? Or was there assassination attempt because of what he did? Like the right-wing extremists tried to kill him?
Yeah, I believe that was certainly at least partially real. I think that the novel is inspired by real stuff. I don't know how far it got. Like, because the Jackal was a real guy. Like, the Jackal was a real assassin. After all, I might talk about assassins aren't real, but what I mean is that like assassins aren't real as a business. Like assassins are very, very specific.
There's right in Koreatown, the Parallax Corporation's right there.
Parallax, it's right there. You can see it. Assassins for hire. What do you need?
Yeah, it's like, all right. Anyway, so essentially, as he goes through this process, he gets away. He realizes he's being monitored by the cops. He's one step ahead of everyone. He's the smartest guy, obviously, right? And he goes back to his... then he tries to escape through this. He tries to get to the club. He's trying to get to the club, but he's being followed by the cops, which follows one of the longest, most action part of the movie where he's getting away from the cops in the subway system.
And a fucking billion cops. They have every cop on him.
On every station, at every station, exit, and he somehow manages to get away from the cops, which is pretty cool. But that whole process in the subway reminded me of the film Subway a lot of ways.
Yeah, no, I have to see. So it's been a long time since I've seen Subway, but I remember liking it.
I loved it as a kid.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a very good film.
No,
I remember. It's like Diva. I love that film too.
I fell in love with Isabelle Adjani at that moment. I realized I have feelings for her.
Yes, exactly. They're complex. I'm going to write them down.
They're complex. I'm going to write them down in my diary. Yeah. And yes, and she was gorgeous. She is gorgeous. Oh, okay.
She married to, what's his name? To, who's the actress, the beautiful actress that's married to, oh God, I lost my memory. Chinatown, Polanski.
Polanski?
I don't think Isabelle Adjani is married to Polanski.
I don't know. I'm not sure who Polanski's married to.
Let me find out right now.
Okay, you look up Isabelle Adjani. There is an Isabelle Adjani film which I'd absolutely want to cover on this podcast, and is very disturbing. Isabelle Adjani.
Emmanuel Signa.
I don't know. No.
Is his wife.
I'm looking this up right now. Let me see.
Piano Teacher.
No.
No, that's not. I don't remember.
What is the movies that she was in? One Deadly Summer. Have you ever seen that movie?
I've not seen that.
1983. Oh,
that sounds great.
Nudity?
Yeah, lots. So. Very lots and lots and lots of nudity.
Good. Approved.
Yes. Yeah. And she's very interesting. She's actually originally from Lebanon.
No, I didn't know.
Really?
Yeah. At least in part, but I'm pretty sure she's almost all Lebanese. But yes. Fantastic film. Very, very, and I'll explain to you why I think it's important after we get off, because there's a couple things we need to talk about. Anyway, so yes, he sort of gets away from the cops. That subway getting away sequence is amazing. He does a lot of things where he notices all the people following him. He gets away from the situation. Ends up back at the club.
Mm-hmm. Well, he goes back to his girlfriend's place.
He goes back to his girlfriend's place. Yes. Right. What does he do there?
And he says, she's like, it's all going to be great, right? And she's like, yeah, don't worry, it's all going to be fine. And then leaves.
And then he leaves. He gets into a car. He steals another Citroën.
Yeah.
Right. And he
goes. The whole city's full of them. You'd think they're French cars.
They are French cars, and they all have.
By the way, they are so low.
Well, they have the pneumatic, the suspension. They're very famous for their pneumatic suspension.
Yeah.
It's like you feel like you're going to hit a pothole.
When they're parked, they let go of the pneumatic suspension, so they're very low. And then when you turn on the car, it goes, it rises.
That's cool.
Yeah, and that was their thing.
Do they still make them?
I don't think they still make them, but they were the Cadillac of French cars back then. That was
car.
Yeah.
It's a good car.
But it goes back to the guy, gets his license plate and another gun, and the guy looks at him and is like, "This is the last time we're going to do this." Yeah, and then it's like, okay. And then he goes back to the club.
What was the reason why? That I never understood. What was so annoying about just changing license plate and getting a wad of cash?
Because I think that, I bet that guy is listening to the
radio.
If you do
it enough times.
And he's like, 500 million cops are attacking, the subways.
Right.
Like there's something going on. Like,
I don't want to be too close to this.
Right.
Yeah.
This looks like you're fucking it up. So that's enough.
Yeah. So he leaves, he goes back to the club. And he's clear, like everyone recognized him. It comes like, "What are you doing here?" The cops, everyone's looking
really
for
ballsy.
you, right? Well, and he goes to the girl who's at the piano.
Yeah. So we should set up that he goes back to he finds out who's paying for all this, right? Because
right, he finds out who's bad guy.
Okay, so very very quickly, the guy who tried to kill him comes back, right, and says, "I have a new deal for you. I'm going to pay you for what we're going to pay you instead of kill you. And we want you to assassinate somebody else." Right. And he's like, "Fuck you," and beats the shit out of the guy, whatever. And then he finds out where the guy is who ordered the killing.
Hit.
Right.
And goes to him. And the guy goes, have you come to accept the deal? And he kills that guy. And then he goes to the club.
Right. Then he goes to the club with a loaded gun, supposedly, right?
He looks like he's the singer.
He friends the singer,
the
piano player, and she continues to play beautifully, even though she knows she's about to be killed.
She's about to get killed. Yeah,
right. And then
I'm assuming
she's
this
doing
is all
complex chord structures.
Yeah,
playing the piano, and it's like looking over, like, whoop, whoop. It's like, wait a minute.
Playing jazz.
Wow, like Emerson, Lake and Palmer, like the two things.
This is Rick Wakeman over here. I like that. This is fantastic.
Hey, what you doing over there? I know you.
No, and I'm assuming that this is this is a long form nod to Truffaut's Shoot the Piano Player, which is also a assassin crime film. But he has come to shoot the piano player. That's what he's doing.
He's good there because she was involved in it. And then
this was his last film, wasn't it?
Maybe. I don't know. I want to say it's close to the last film.
Right. But there's something else and then the cops show up.
Well, they show up, they announce themselves by shooting him.
Right, because he's got a gun.
Yeah, right? He pulls a gun on her, he's about to shoot her, and then
to the point where you hear gunfire, you think that he's killed her,
right?
But he doesn't kill her. everyone else has shot him. It's one of those,
and he gets killed by the cops.
The gunfire was from another gun that ends up shooting him.
They were waiting the whole time for him to come and do this, and they go over to him, and lead cop. Like all the other cops say to the singer, they're just like,
forget about it.
Yeah, you're lucky. You're lucky we were here. We saved your life.
Forget about it. It's the 13th arrondissement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the main cop.
It's the 13th arrondissement.
And then the main cop picks up the Samurai's gun and opens up the barrel and finds out there's no bullets in it to start with. Like he came here to end it all. Suicide by cop. That's what happens.
Suicide by cop.
Yep. And there you go. And it ends on the stage and pulls back out.
End the movie.
Yep.
And you know what HBO Max does? They just shrink my credit sequence.
Yes. Well, I don't do that. You know where I watch this film? I watch it on Canopy.
Okay, another thing.
Obnoxious as shit. Like I want to read the credits and it becomes like a postage stamp.
And you have to
so I can watch this Christmas film trailer.
Yeah, Christmas with the Cranks comes up. I'm sure that I'm the same audience as this. Yeah. Not only that, like with Max, I've tried to watch things like Cool Hand Luke, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and a couple other ones. When I press play on them, it starts to play, and I'm only seeing a quarter of the screen. Like it's blown up. Like my TV needs to be 4 TVs large in order to see it, and there's no setting on my TV that will shrink it back to the appropriate size.
Really?
Like, the fuck is going on? It's like they're playing it in like 10K. Like I don't know what it is, and they've not fixed any of these things. So if anyone has a problem, like similar problem, please tweet at @martini_giant because I don't know what
Martini Giant.
Add Martini Giant. Sorry,
and there's no tweeter anyway. It's X now, but doesn't matter.
And please X at blah blah whatever.
No, whatever.
Yeah, it's Twitter. Fuck off. If I ever call it X, I hope it's the last thing I say before I die.
Right. Now we should. I asked the guys on Wednesday. I was like, "What movies you guys want to do on Saturday?" And Dan said we should do The Killer, and we'll do it with the Samouraï. So he has been trying to do The Killer for a while.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
And so this is really the Samouraï, which is something we've desperately needed to talk about for a long time because
that's a classic.
But this is but I think that Daniel's been chomping at the bit to talk about.
Yeah. Well, I did in fact love The Killer. I saw The Killer on the theater screen. I paid to see The Killer.
Thank you.
And it's been interesting to watch people's evolving reaction to this film. Because I would say that the people that I saw in the theater with, like, it seems to me, it was like, obviously they're David Fincher fans if they're, going to the Alamo Theater in Los Angeles and to try and catch The Killer because nobody knew it was in theaters. But it seemed like everyone was like, I guess that was all right. Like that was the tone walking out of the theater. Like it was all right. And I was like, this is fucking great. Like right off the bat, I was like, this thing's amazing, right? But the chatter I heard was all like mid to negative, right? And then online when it finally released, it was there was a lot of initial reactions which was just like, well, it's very it's very nicely shot and but it's very simple and it's very minor Fincher and it's very like all this very diminutive sort of praise. And slowly
I could totally see that reaction.
Yeah, and so like slowly as people have gone back to it and rewatched it and sort of investigated it more, there have been more and more think pieces on what the fuck this movie means. And suddenly I'm like, you see people going, wait a minute, maybe this wasn't quite as simple as I thought that it was. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've been finding very gratifying. I think it's a modest hit for Netflix and Fincher, which is good. But I think that if people slowly discovered that it is, very much their kind of Fincher movie, it's just the most.
It doesn't feel like Zodiac. It doesn't feel like
it's the opposite of Zodiac.
Right.
It's the opposite, and I think that Fincher has been.
It's a smaller film in the sense of like the world.
Yes,
the Zodiac world is so big, and you're trying to figure out
a huge amount of time and density to everything, a million characters and all this kind of stuff.
That's right. This is like.
Extremely efficient. Like it's very, very, very slender. It's chapterized. It's all very like by the numbers, like bang, 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 bang. And it doesn't mean that it's fast. It just means that you on the top level, it seems very, very spare. right? And I think that people have misread spareness for lack of depth. And I think that that's to reflect also the Samouraï. It's interesting. I think that's where Fincher was, because Fincher's a giant fan of the Samouraï, and I think that's what he's trying to evoke.
Here's a question for you. I didn't realize it was in the theaters. What was I've seen the movie 3 times. I love it.
Yeah.
I really do. What was your experience seeing it at theater and then watching it at home in terms of, how was it?
That's a great question. That's a great question. Because I think that probably I was able to, I may have been in the camp of maybe it's not and thinking about it more before I fell in love with it. If I had only watched it on TV first, because generally my feeling of when I watch a great movie nowadays on TV first, it feels like it's a more intellectual exercise than an emotional one. And I was totally into the movie when I saw it in the theater. It was got great seats. The sound was fucking incredible. And we'll talk about it, but the sound design in this movie is incredibly physical. It really underscores the physicality of all the events that happen, the bullets, the fights, and all this kind of stuff. It's one of the best sound design films I've ever seen. It's just incredible and very inventive. But it's something that, if you don't have a great sound system at home, I don't have a great sound system at home. Actually, I don't know if you're going to see that or hear that.
It's up there with my favorite sound design film in the past 20 years, which was No Country for Old Men, when he was getting shot by that hotel.
So good.
It was
so
the greatest bullets going through the... Yeah, it was...
Absolutely terrific.
You know that night scene where there was that gun fight?
Great call.
Those bullets scared the shit out of me. And it was almost it was really happening because it was perfect. Going through the metal. And that guy pulls up in the truck hey, what's going on?
It's the best, man. But yeah, that's actually a great pull overall, because I feel like this kind of movie is No Country for Old Men is probably the last time that I felt this particular way about a movie, where I'm it is all he's getting at deep things through pure filmic execution. He's I'm not going to do it with the script. I'm going to do it with the film, and the script is going to support me, but that's only a jumping off point to do what I'm doing. And so without further ado, I'll give people the plot of The Killer. I'm going to spoil everything very quickly. So skip ahead if you want to miss out on this. Here's what it is. Michael Fassbender is an assassin, right? And the movie is divided up into, I think, 6 chapters. And it basically goes something like this. Chapter 1, he has a job that he has to do. He fucks up the job, and then the rest of the movie, he feels that he is on the run from fucking up that job. So he is going to go and first get away. And so chapter 2 is he goes back to his hideout, goes back to his house, but he finds out that his girlfriend who lives there with him has been beat to hell by some other assassins that are coming after him. So, chapter 3, he decides to go and kill his way up the chain to the person that ordered him to be killed, right? And the first person he kills is the taxi driver who took the assassins to his girlfriend's house. And then after that, he kills his lawyer friend who
hired him,
who sets up the deals, and then he kills his bookkeeper,
the secretary.
And then
she was so good.
Yeah, and then he goes
fucking it up the whole time.
Yeah, we'll get to this in a second. Even just the choices of who he's killing, you're kind of
Here's a question for you guys. I'm just gonna have a little bite.
Yeah,
I was just thinking, what if you took the audio from The Killer and synced it with The Samouraï?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, right. There's so much.
The dialogue, that inner monologue, and just put
so
it
funny.
with him in the room.
So funny.
We'll talk about that monologue because it's...
So this is a big part of it. But I'll just get through the plot real quick. So he kills the choices that for who he's killing are very indicative of what the movie's doing. But he kills the bookkeeper. And then he's I'm going to kill the 2 assassins because the bookkeeper tells me who they are. And he goes to kill one guy who lives in Florida. And he's this huge monster of a guy, and then turns into one of the great fight sequences in the past 10 years, right? Which is amazing.
Except in Barry.
Yeah, and Barry's the other one. Barry's the other one, right? And so he takes this guy out, and then he's going to kill Tilda Swinton, who's the leader assassin who is directing the other guy. And then he goes to go kill her and ends up basically having dinner and talking with her in a way that is very emotionally upsetting to him. And he's sort of like, what the fuck is going on? Fuck it, I'm going to kill her anyway. He kills her. And then he finds out who finally ordered him to be killed. And he goes to that guy's house, super rich guy, top of, beautiful building. And this guy is just sort of a douchebag who has a lot of money and doesn't even know who he is and doesn't even really know. It's just like, oh, I guess they tried to kill you. That's weird. Like, it's absolutely no fucking idea of any of this plot line whatsoever. And Michael Fassbender, after the entire journey, is like, he's just overwhelmed by the place this puts him in. And he's like, don't do it again or I'll come and kill you. Bye. And leaves and doesn't kill the guy, and then he's just like, he finds himself sitting on the beach at his hideout, relaxing with his girlfriend.
Essentially what Alain Delon should have done.
Which Alain Delon should have done, exactly. And he's lying there with his girlfriend, and then there's the last shot is he's in his monologue laying out how it is, and you get one weird twitch of his cheek and the movie cuts to black. That's the plot of the movie. Now we can talk about what the movie is about. All right. This guy is a hack dumbass.
But he thinks he's the smartest person in the room.
But he thinks he's the smartest person in the room. And he's not terrible at his job, but he's not nearly as good as he believes he is.
No. He was like
But he thinks he's the samurai.
He thinks he's the samurai. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And the opening chapter has him, the opening 20 fucking minutes of the movie is him, hiding.
Which is so slow.
It's so slow. And it's very purposefully slow. It's like, fuck you slow. Right. And he is in a building across the street from the guy that he's supposed to shoot. Right. And he is trying to observe.
He was like Kevin Kline in Fish Called Wanda.
Fish Called Wanda. Exactly. Exactly.
Bit, exactly right. Or Brad Pitt in that movie with John Malkovich that Soderbergh did.
Which one?
Oh, yeah.
Burn After Reading or something?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so, he's sitting in this, he's in France, Paris.
Which is what's behind us right now.
And he's sitting in here and he is trying to gauge when to attack this guy. And he spends, days.
And he explains that you have to be patient and patience,
right. This movie is wall-to-wall internal monologue. The whole fucking movie.
Which to me, sorry to interrupt, but I'm watching this, I'm like, ugh. Because I've been on, I did, but it was just the beginning part of this movie, right? I've already been on this rampage, similar to what Daniel is saying before, is I'm tired of movies having to explain themselves. Yeah, and this movie starts off with it explaining itself.
Right. And he said about all of this fucking bullshit.
And then I'm like, oh God, it's this again. And I was just kind of tired of it. And then the key is, he is explaining in a monologue all the steps it is to be so accurate and precise.
Yeah, you have to be a very special person and
stick to the plan. Stick to the plan.
I'm a badass.
And then he's got his scope up to shoot the guy.
Don't get sentimental.
No empathy.
I have to have the right pulse rate.
And he's so
By
precise.
By the way, he shot at 65, not 60.
He shot at 65. Exactly. This is fantastic, right? So all this buildup, he's quoting people, philosophers.
He doesn't even follow his own rules. That was pretty much
stick to the plan, which he doesn't fucking stick to.
And so he's laying down all this very highly tweetable bullshit. It's just it's the whatever. It's he might as well be the Tao Te Ching says this, and saying that's what you have to and he when the quote that got me is he goes he's just rambling through all this nonsense and he goes, do as thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. And then he goes, to quote
There's probably Kevin Kline.
It's fucking hysterical.
And then
so it all not as obvious as Kevin Kline, though.
Yes, it's very low key.
It was just very cocky arrogance, like what?
Don't call me stupid.
He believes he is the fucking best in the world, and then the basic setup, and most importantly, the best at the he's like this is what you gotta. He's giving you advice, the viewer. He's giving you the viewer advice the whole time. Like, this is how to be me, because you don't want to just be a fucking regular nobody. You want to be one of the special people, right? You don't want to be one of the many. You want to be one of the few.
Like,
right?
it's just an instructional video on how to be a badass, right?
Exactly.
How to be a samurai. Like
all that builds up to he's finally got the dude in his sights across the street. And he's like, I gotta wait till heart beats at 60. And then it's 65.
He
fucking pulls the trigger.
And he hits the call girl, or this
kills the call girl. That's what
I
the
think
dude.
It was his wife. But the
and
point
the moment
is,
he just
totally
goes,
clipped her.
And like the moment this happens, Fincher, who has never used handheld more than 6 times in his life, suddenly goes handheld. And it's just like the camera's like, what the fuck? Like this. And he says, Fassbender goes, fuck. And he really shuts the whole thing down and starts running away as fast as he fucking can.
The comedy.
It is a comedy.
But it's also, it's let's put it this way, because we've done this several times. I've heard, like, this has been a pattern in this last year. This is a comedy in the way that Tar is a comedy, right?
Yes, absolutely
most
correct.
People don't even realize it's a comedy.
Low key. And then the thing is, I've debated with many people whom I respect, who are just like, why did you like that? It's just like this, it's like this fucking cringy movie about like this quote badass, and he's a badass at all. I'm like, yeah.
That's the point. Right.
That's what's funny.
Caesar is like, anticipate, don't improvise. And the first thing he does is like, oh, fuck.
Like, he totally fucks it up instantly.
That's totally, but like Kevin Kline, he's like, Nietzsche says. And then, what's his name? The English comedian.
Absolutely good. Yeah.
Be like, what?
It's so fucking good, dude. And like,
the best was when in The Fish Called Wanda, he's like, I'm with the CIA. And then, what's his name's wife, who caught them in the house, like, my father was MI.
It's so good. It's amazing. And it's amazing.
Don't call me stupid.
Don't call me stupid. And so, like, he is like, and the thing is, he's got all these little routines and all this stuff. And I don't think they don't play him like as a big joke. They play him in a way that I start to in a way relate to him. Like we are all like this to an extent.
It's a mundane job.
And absolutely. I keep pretending that I'm the baddest ass person in podcasting.
I pretend like I'm
fuck it up all the time.
Exactly. Like, we have this like ego of just like that we keep talking to ourselves and reinforcing how fucking great we are, right? When in actuality, we're just barely getting through. Like, most of the time,
normal
this is
people,
it. Normies. We're a bunch of normies, right? And he is a normie. Like, as much as he's talking about, don't be one of those people. And the journey of the movie is when he finally gets to the tip top guy. Like, the guy is like so rich and so disconnected from him that he's like, what the fuck was I thinking? You know, like this guy doesn't even know who I am or why I am here. Like, I thought I was talking this big game in the beginning about like how you have to be one of the special people. And it turns out I am not one of the special people. Like, I'm one of the fucking many, just like you. Like, I'm just another fucking hack. And once it got to that point at the end, like, I looked back at the movie and I was just like, the only people he really kills are service people just like him.
Yeah.
Like, he's just fucking killing.
He killed the prostitute.
Yeah, like, exactly. The prostitute, the taxi driver, the fucking accountant, the lawyer guy. All these guys are just gig guys doing one-off jobs and trying to keep afloat. Like, that's all they're doing.
Isn't that kind of like La Samouraï with the working class?
Yes, exactly so. Exactly. So when you were going over the Samouraï, Eric, I was like, this is even more what the killer is. Yeah, the killer is referencing this in a deeper way than even realized, right? And it's really brilliant because like the thing that he is the room that he is shooting from in the open. The room that he is shooting from in the opening scene is a fucking WeWork facility. It's a WeWork facility. And you show all this dumb minutia.
The head of WeWork was completely full of shit.
It's true. And so, like, he's firing from a WeWork facility. This is the kind of actual person he is, right? He is just the fucking gig guy, right? And you see him doing all these things like renting lots of shitty cars and like everything that you have to do as a regular run-of-the-mill fucking idiot. Like that's what's really happening in the movie. And I heard Fincher talk about this because someone's like, so, you like movies about people that, are sort of isolated and feel like, what did they say? They said, feel like, like they're outside the system. What's the word for that? When you feel like you're like the Joker or whatever it is. Like nobody else is like me, right? You're a fringe character, right? Yeah. And he's like, who doesn't think that? Everybody thinks that. Everyone thinks they're the fringe guy, and you're not. You think like, oh, I'm just a nerd. Nobody really likes nerds. The whole fucking world loves nerds. You seen Marvel? Everybody loves nerds. Stop pretending like you're an outsider. That's the word. Like you're not an outsider. Almost nobody is an outsider. And when you finally meet the outsider at the top, he is outsider because he is so fucking rich. He doesn't even know who you are at all. Like it doesn't even occur to him as to why you're in his house. And initially he's just sort of annoyed. Like, why would someone come and kill me? That doesn't make any sense. He's puzzled.
Just a transaction.
It's just a transaction. Like this is so far. I mean, you must be like, this might as well be a Chipotle worker coming in to kill. Fucking.
The best line is that rich guy's driver. He's like, this guy's definitely not Mossad. And he's definitely not Mensa.
Definitely not Mensa. Good luck with the Wordle. It's so good. But this is the beauty of this movie is that like it's not simply making fun of
kiss kiss bang bang. A little bit of that.
Right.
Well, okay. Let's go back to the Fish Called Wanda analogy because I think this is important, right? Mm-hmm. So Fish Called Wanda. There's not a person on this planet that watches that movie and says Kevin Kline is actually a smart guy.
No, he's a dumbass. He's a total dumbass.
It is clearly a dumbass the whole time. However, all the people that walked out of that movie theater that you talked about didn't realize that he's a dumbass and this is a comedy.
Yes.
Okay?
I think yes.
So in a sense, we are the ones that are thinking that we're special because we understand that it's a comedy.
This is an excellent point. Right?
So as cinephiles, we're like, oh,
we're the special people. We're the outsiders.
We're the outsiders. We're the special people that understand.
This is the kind of thinking he's making fun of with the movie, right?
And so the Samouraï also is like, oh, you don't understand. It's like it just seems like a silly assassin film, but it's a French classic film, and it's so important for filmmaking.
Right. So this is the kind of shit that I love. Right.
We are the snobs.
It's making this is what it's doing. This is the brilliance of the movie. It's like it is making fun. It's not making fun of, like, for instance, like a movie like The Joker or something like this. Like it's pointing at like an incel and saying, "Look at that freaky incel." This movie is pointing at me and saying, "You're kind of a fucking moron."
Yeah.
Like, and I'm just
like, film snob.
You're a film snob, or whatever kind of snob you are. Because like we're all this fucking way. We're all this way. Like everyone thinks they're the smart one in the room. Like everyone thinks they got the right political ideas. Everyone thinks that they're blah blah blah. Like we're in a culture that, like, if we looked at ourselves honestly, like we're living gig to gig and eating McDonald's, which is what he is doing.
Yeah.
Like that's the reality of it. And so, and Fincher's talked about it. It's just like the difference between the external point of view in the movie and the internal point of view is very stark. And they make it very clear with like when he listens to music. Because like he has the Smiths playing all the time, which is amazing,
good.
Right? And he tells you when he's in the killer's head because the music becomes non-diegetic, right? It's like suddenly you're hearing it for real. And when we're outside of his head, it goes back to like muffled headphones that you're hearing, right, as if you're standing right next to him.
Right.
And so like the thoughts and that you're privy to that are happening in the film, right, are his thoughts that he's really only having to himself. He sounds like he's talking to you as an audience member, but the audience really is him. Like this is him trying to convince himself all the time that what he's doing is more valuable and valid than it really is to support his own ego, right? And why is he doing this kind of stuff? Because he's got the hot girlfriend the way you're supposed to, that he's living in this place in this, like a timeshare somewhere.
School, and right? That guy was his college professor.
Right. And it's fucking college. It's a brilliant point, Eric. Exactly. Like when you look at what's objectively going on, it's sort of simple and rinky-dink, you know, and then he puts on this like outfit saying like, I want to look like, you know, just like a German tourist asshole, like, you know, just a regular normie. And like what he is on the outside is actually who he is. Like he really is that. He is a random, everyday dope, just like me. You know,
yeah,
and the movie is so, because I think this fits into Fincher's own view of himself, right? And because Fincher's against talking about his movies like auteur cinema. You know, he's like, yeah, that stuff's bullshit. Like, don't get fucking high on your own supply. Like,
didn't he start off though in VFX and stuff?
Yeah, he worked on Return of the Jedi. Yeah,
what's this?
He worked for ILM.
Right.
Yeah. He was a matte painter. Was he?
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that.
Yeah, and
did not leave ILMs on good terms, by the way.
Yeah, no, very bad, very bad.
Really?
But like, yeah, he's like, and Fincher has always looked at himself as a.
I don't think he's actually worked with ILM since.
Yeah, and like he looks at himself as a workman kind of personality. Like everyone else treats him wants to make him into.
He is the most Gen X director of our time.
Yes, yeah, very very much so.
And especially now, like he represents Gen X the way they see themselves today.
Yes.
Like, you know, like not Gen X from like when it was in the 90s, like now, like, you know.
What? Completely agree. Completely.
Right.
Agree.
And so like the fact that he's listening to the Smiths.
It's amazing.
Right. Like, is very Gen X.
When the second Smith song came on,
I was like, oh, you keep going with this thing. Right. And it's like, so you know, good. It's almost like, okay.
Yep. Yeah. And it's like, it is one of the most self-critical movies I've ever seen. It's like, it's incredibly.
Yeah. Do you think he's making fun of himself?
Oh, like, I think that he says in public, no, I don't identify with this at all. This is just telling a story efficiently. But I'm just like, there's no way that you couldn't see some of Fincher in this. Like you have pointed out, and other people have said, like, this is like, as if, you know, when he misses the shot, like that's girl with the dragon tattoo not performing so well, you know, like that kind of shit, you know. So I think that's I think it's a totally valid way to read the movie. And like my friend Ben Hansford was just like, his producer, the lawyer in this movie, like he fucking literally drives nails into the guy's heart and thinks he's going to live.
So good. No. I pointed that out. This is the best part.
Thing is, he was just like, so he has 3 minutes to. Oh wait.
Oh shit.
Yeah, that's the best thing. So just to give people who haven't, he does this whole thing where he thinks he's the smartest person. Like, yes, I know how to kill someone or torture them, whatever. And he takes a nail gun and puts the nails through the heart and realizes like you are going to die slowly, and you better call the 911 to save your life and give me all the information between now. Oh fuck, you're dead. He's
in the middle of saying it to
this
himself.
Age, non-smoke. Oh wait.
Oh fuck. Like it's so funny. And like all this stuff, like he's constantly saying, stick to the plan, you know, forbid empathy, all this bullshit. And he's doing none of this. Like like more and more as the movie goes on.
When he kills the cab driver, I'm like, why?
Why'd you fucking kill that dude? Like he's just a fucking guy. You know,
the cab driver.
Like, which is true for virtually everybody. I mean, he doesn't kill anybody who deserves to be killed.
Tilda
really,
Swinton was pretty funny too.
Like, and Tilda Swinton, like, and actually, Tilda Swinton is one of my favorite parts because she's the one. Like, she lays it out for him when she tells the joke, and she's just like, you know, the joke about the hunter and the bear, right?
Yeah, tell the joke again.
Okay, so the joke is like this, right? You know, after watching this movie where he thinks he's like, I'm going to kill my way to the top and just like really show him and, you know, like take down the system.
Thing, right? It's a typical.
This is the trope for
this is the trope.
Kind of
that's the word I'm looking for. The trope. Yeah, exactly.
And so like he clearly has it in his mind that he's going to live the trope of an assassin. Right. Like that's what he believes on the surface that he is doing. Right. And so she tells this joke of like, okay, so there's this hunter and he goes into the woods and he tries to kill a bear. He shoots the bear. Bear survives and comes up to him and says like, okay, listen, here's the deal. I can either eat you now or I can let you go. But if I let you go, I'm going to sodomize you first. Right. And the guy's like, I'll take the sodomy. That's fine. Takes it and leaves. And then he's like, I'm going to get that bear And he goes back in with a bigger gun, and he tries to shoot the bear, and he hits the bear, but the bear survives and comes back and goes, you know the deal. Right? And then, so he leaves again, and this time he comes back with a bazooka, and he shoots the bear, and the bear lives. And the bear comes back and says, you're not really here for the hunting, are you? And like, that's what is happening for him. Like, what are you really doing here, my man?
Like, trying to prove something.
Yeah, like, what do you think is going on? Because what you think is going on is not what is going on. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, like between that and the dude at the end being absolutely fucking clueless.
Right.
Like, he is just like, what am I doing?
And he didn't see that knife from her at all.
At all. Zero. Oh my God. Yeah. It's just, I mean, like,
he was almost going to not follow his own plan.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you start to hear him question things even as he goes, like when he's sitting outside the Brute's apartment and he's like, stick to the plan, blah, blah, blah. Because he says, like, early on, he's like, and the reason why I'm so successful, stick to the plan. The reason why I'm so successful is because I don't give. And he says it in this really, not just a hyper coolized way, but in a redubbed way. So it really punches out. He goes, I don't give a fuck. Right. And so he says that early on. And then later on, he's like, how's I don't give a fuck going? So he's slowly coming to understand that he is not who he thinks he is. He is not doing what he thought he was doing. And he's not living the life that he was fantasizing he was living. He's actually making a bunch of excuses to pretend like he has the life he wants when he doesn't.
Right. So this came up before between us discussing, but I want to bring it up on the podcast itself. Because I think Eric said it's like, what if Brad Pitt played this role instead of Fassbender, right?
Yeah. And because Fincher was looking to have Brad Pitt play him for a long time.
Because I think Fassbender, I think Brad Pitt would have been much clearer.
It would have been much more upfront funny. I mean, like people would have read it correctly.
It would have gotten a joke out of it, or because he has great timing. He's really funny.
Yeah,
but Fassbender's the opposite.
Yeah,
like,
he's
Fassbender is
maybe he wanted to fool you that way.
I don't know. I think it could have been a little more successful if they had.
I think people would have been. Yeah, like I get what you're saying, because like it's sort of like it's how much do you want people to figure this out for themselves the way the killer does, versus how much
is it too subtle?
Is it? It's a totally valid question, because clearly,
so then audiences
50% of the people, very smart people I know, did not see it this way. Like they were just like,
they didn't see it. It says
this is a movie about like, why do you think he's cool? I'm like, I don't think he's cool. That's what I think is great about the movie.
And the same thing with Tar, right? People think it's a movie about like a narcissistic.
It's a really serious movie about
narcissistic conductor.
Like, whereas I'm like, when she literally falls on her face and breaks her face when she falls on her face, like I was laughing so fucking loud, it's ridiculous.
Right.
So like,
but it's too subtle.
But it is very, 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 very subtle. I think on rewatch, almost everyone gets it. Like if they rewatch it, people get it. But the first time through, your preconceptions of what this is are so strong that it's hard to see it. And so there's a question as to whether or not he is on the right or wrong side of that decision. I totally hear where you're coming from. Like it would be better. Like I would have rather seen that in the movie theater and have everyone clap at the end and be excited about it.
So really, this was made for Netflix, so people can watch it over and over again until they understand it.
I don't know if they will, though. Right? So
it's hard to say. Yeah.
I mean, they're going to watch this and not get it, and I was like, watch it again. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe. I mean, I don't know if people watch movies again like they used to.
Not like they used to. I mean, they're going to do it. If they're going to do it,
I'll be honest with you. Did I tell you this when I first saw it? I was like, this is built like a series.
Yeah, right. Well, the opening titles are exactly like a series.
Yeah, but the way it was pacing and the storyline going, and at the very end, it was almost, and it's based on a comic book. So I texted you guys in Discord. I said,
"Was this based on this comic book?
Is this a TV show or is this a movie?" Yeah.
Well, no, I think this should be a series because it was so open ended at the end.
Yeah, right.
That it was like you can just do flashbacks.
Right.
For him, it's college.
Oh,
and the whole point, but it was thematically, I felt like it was a series built up.
Yeah, it definitely, like, I think that he's both been working with Netflix for a long time, and he's very aware of Netflix's needs.
So then if he says, you know what, then let them watch it again and they'll understand it.
Then they'll watch it again. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, it could mean like, certainly like Fincher is the kind of person who might do that. I can see
maybe,
that for sure.
Maybe. But there are other ways. Okay. We talked about Barry. Barry.
Right.
Clearly that one is, they tell you it's it's freaking Bill Hader.
It's very straightforward. It's very upfront about what it's doing, and
but
gets to be deep.
It still gets to be deep, and
Absolutely
he's still an assassin, and he's still a badass, and also a fuck up, right?
Right. Well, the thing is, like, for me, I mean, I laid my cards on the table when we talked about Tenet. Like, I love Tenet all the more because I didn't love Tenet until I saw it 5 times. Like, it's a very special movie because it can only work in a certain way. And I think
believe
really
I stated in that as like, I shouldn't have to be forced to watch a movie 5 times to love it.
I thought it was like, the James Bond with.
Oh, sure. I know.
Shitty 70s.
Absolutely. People can go back and listen to the podcast. But I think that like the idea
Let's do it now.
That's what we should do. It. Just go, everyone wants to stop.
We can just do Tenet again, right?
But like but I bet there are favorite movies and favorite books of all of ours that for the most part, and maybe we didn't even like it the first time we read it or the first time we saw it, but then it sank in and we saw it again and we liked it more, right? So it's really like Fincher has such control over this thing, and he has the opportunity to make it a little more obvious. What is the responsibility to make it more obvious? Like, what is he doing it for him? Is he doing it for the audience? Like, what is it? Like, is he just misreading it himself? Or is he just like, oh, people will figure it out? Like, it's hard to say. I guess that's what it is. It's just like, for me, I'm like, I like that there's more of a conversation because a lot of people don't get it on the first round. Like, I've talked more about this movie with people than any other movie this year in terms of hours by a million miles because people have a 50-50 shot of hearing what it's saying.
Now, I'm not denying that this is a good movie, but I'm just saying if
you were saying whether that's a good choice.
If he had done it with Brad Pitt, could it have just been just enough to sort of...
Yep.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure.
More people would have seen it.
More people would have seen it. It would have been easier to sell, and it could have been a better performance. And I'm not saying that Fassbender did a poor performance. I just said it would have been different.
I think for me, I totally hear you.
Eric Stoltz and Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, the thing is like, I mean, the thing is like Eric Stoltz is just, I mean, no offense to Eric Stoltz, like Michael J. Fox is made for that role, whereas like Michael Fassbender, think
Brad Pitt was made for this role.
No, Brad Pitt is made for the movie.
Was he even up for it?
Yeah, he was originally going to talk about it, and then he decided
but he did Bullet Train instead. Which
however,
is
the movie that you're talking about
is like saying I did Smoking the Bear,
right? But like the movie that you're talking about, Chris, with Brad Pitt, is a totally different movie than this.
Yes,
right. So,
but I think he could have done it.
Like I'm not saying. And the thing is, like, it's not whether or not it's a better movie; it's that it is a utterly different movie, right? And I think that with The Killer, with the fact that there's an obviousness to Fassbender being like, he is a sociopath, and it's clear that he's a sociopath. Like, once you get the movie,
could have done it with Edward Norton.
But this, wait, let me follow through the thought. Like, the movie is more like it's clearly saying that what it ends up saying is a little less Fight Clubby and a little bit more honest, right? Because the problem that Fincher had and continues to have with Fight Club is because he casts Brad Pitt. Like, people miss the point even more. Like Brad Pitt is funny, fucking charming, amazing just by being Brad Pitt. And he wins people over, even though in the end of the movie, he's openly saying, dude's a Nazi, don't do this. And they're like, whatever you say, buddy, Brad Pitt. Like, and so I think that there's by having Fassbender be ultimately a distanced, unlikable personality, like, it makes it for a more confusing first watch, but a clearer statement overall. Like, I think that's what I would say. That would be my read on it. But I totally hear what you're saying is like, that's a very difficult choice to make. Because I do agree that if you put Brad Pitt, that's a funny ass movie that everyone's going to love. And they may or may not get, but they'll definitely love it the first time.
And it'll be much clearer who that person is.
Maybe.
But the thing is,
that's a hypothetical.
We're looking at probably 3 people in the world that got it, that it's a comedy.
Yeah, I wouldn't say 3.
And everyone else are people that we've had
sure.
to explain it to.
But there's like,
but maybe
like,
he thought that because Brad Pitt, as soon as you see him, it's like seeing Cary Grant at this stage.
Yeah,
you know, it's like having Johnny Halliday instead of Alain Delon. It's like people already, they didn't really know him. That's what made him a star,
right?
In a way, right. But he was growing. So the point is, it's seeing Brad Pitt there. You would say there's a lot of expectations. You already know him, so maybe a lot of the nuance that he wanted to get across would not come across because you would say that's Brad Pitt.
Yeah, I think it's a very fine thread that like it's like do this or do this. You have 2 totally different movies, and you lose this over here and you lose this over here. Which one do I want? I think that's really what's going on for him.
You know who could have done it?
No.
Oh God, I'm blanking on his name. He plays one of the characters in AI. What's his name? He's like the good-looking guy who ends up.
Jude Law.
Jude Law.
Jude Law would be good. Also, I agree with that. That's a good middle ground.
I'll tell you why.
I like that. It's pretty good
because he's too short.
Jude Law.
Yeah, perhaps so. But Jude Law, and he couldn't do it today. But Jude Law in his prime would have worked. But the thing is, like, I think that Fassbender is fucking terrific on this thing.
Dickie Greenleaf.
Dickie Greenleaf. Yeah, exactly.
Who would have? Colin Farrell would have nailed it.
That's Colin Farrell. Yeah. That's like sad. That's an easy. That's like fucking. Well, might as well get
he would have
Marlon Brando.
He would have done it.
He's amazing. Like I can't. I'm not gonna say it's impossible for me to say anything bad about Colin Farrell. So you win that argument. But the thing is, like, I think that Fassbender is a fucking riot in this movie. He's incredibly funny.
But I think that's the. Yes, as long as you get it, but it takes
if you get it. But that's
time.
Like I think it's consistent with the way that, because when Fincher is asked about Fight Club, they're like, "Well, aren't you worried about like people that just think that Tyler Durden?" He's like, "What the fuck can I do about that?"
Yeah, well, that's actually happened more recently.
It can happen to any movie you audition
for. It's
like
people are gonna fucking read it or not read it however they want to. I can't do anything about that.
Right.
You know, I made it as clear as I could. What do you want me to say? And so like with this one, like I think that it's like the real uphill battle in the movie is that our preconceptions of the assassin genre are the same as Michael Fassbender's. And what we have to overcome is what the movie is. Like the movie is actually very critical about us over our current situation. And it's hard to see that because the context is badass assassin movie and you're not expecting that in the slightest. You know, and so that's what really gets in the way of people seeing what this thing is. It isn't, you know, like I think that Brad Pitt just makes for a more like entertaining movie,
a Netflixy movie. Like
it's just a more entertaining movie. Like I love watching Brad Pitt, and and I think the chances, I think you get to the second watch faster because Brad Pitt's super charming, and once you get to the second watch, people get the movie. So I think that your point is absolutely valid. It's just that for me, like Fassbender is a fucking gem in this thing, and watching him watch the kid point the gun at his mom is one of my favorite fucking moments in film this year, because he's like what the fuck. Like this blank amazing look on Fassbender's face is just impossible to beat. But yes, I completely hear what you're saying, and that's a absolutely reasonable argument. I wouldn't say the same thing about Le Samouraï, which can literally only be Alain Delon or Alan Arkin. Alain Arkin? No?
Yeah.
Like Alain Delon is machine tool.
He wrote it for him, apparently.
He looks like the Terminator. Like,
yeah, you know. He does. In fact, he looks like Terminator 2 Terminator. He looks like that guy. Brad, who's that guy? The guy that runs real fast and then turns into liquid metal. He looks like that guy.
He does.
I can't think of that actor's name.
The guy's name. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Same dead, pretty eyes. Really great.
The guy who runs really fast?
The T2.
He played the T2.
Oh, Terminator guy. Yeah.
Terminator 2.
Yeah, T2. The T2 in T2
cop.
Is the cop Terminator is an Alain Delon lookalike, red across the eyes. Yeah, really, really something. But there you go. That is my pitch for The Killer. If you haven't seen Robert Patrick, thank you. If people have not seen The Killer, please watch The Killer and take any of the bullshit that I just spewed and see if it sticks for you, because I think you'll love the movie.
Even without that context, I'm going to say this outright. Like, even without that context, it is such a well executed film. so well shot, so well crafted, so unbelievable.
It's
surreal. And the one thing we haven't pushed on this is how close it follows a lot of the tropes of the samurai, right?
Oh,
right. Subway stuff,
right
Paris stuff, all that stuff, right? The way that things are shot, the colors.
The way he threw the gun away.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all there.
All in there, right?
He is very, 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 like he's in love with the samurai, for sure.
Absolutely. But like also want to note, there was one other thing that happened that was interesting that was pointed out was a company actually we know the guy who runs the company. Did a bunch, he does a getaway in an electric moped, which is kind of funny and weird in its own thing.
If you don't think that's funny, maybe you won't think The Killer's funny, but that's very funny.
Right? Because it doesn't even make any sound. Just
yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, it wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, because it's electric, right? Yes. Which is a weird thing in itself, right? Yep. But but they try to shoot it like it's dramatic, and it is. In some ways,
it absolutely, it's for The Killer. This is dramatic, and so it is dramatic,
right?
But it's also very silly.
Yes. But he is, he's all CG, and most people don't even realize it. Stunning work, right? So that they can get these incredibly complex shots inside of Paris without having to involve an electric motorcycle.
Yeah, there's virtual production, CG models. Yeah, it's incredible,
and it's really, really incredibly well done.
Yeah,
and very, very interesting.
Yeah.
What's funny is I was like, wow, look at that. And someone remarked on X or whatever the hell it is, like, I guess Fincher was too lazy to shoot it for real.
Yeah, that's how it was.
The most asinine remark I could ever think of.
I guess Fincher was too lazy to do way, way, way less work.
It's just it just makes you realize how little people know about filmmaking. Yes.
Well, I got into a debate online with a guy who said, he's like, I don't think, because this is not, we should put this in the short list for best visual effects. And the guy's like, you can't even tell it's a visual effect. Like, why should you give it an award? And I was like, what the fuck are you saying? That's like saying this pizza is too good.
Did they really say that?
Yes. I was like, what? Like, we should only give awards to spaceships? Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Wow.
Like,
that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, this is like, it's not even like a giant space battle. Why should we give it an award? And I'm just like, because you didn't even know it was real. Like, you didn't know it was fake. Like, that's why you give people awards. That's the very reason. Like, they're that good.
I'm telling you, there's going to be a shift in the perception of visual effects that's going to start to happen. I'm seeing
those videos that you put out, I think, were a great step. Those actually did very well.
Yeah, if you haven't seen, it's a guy, Jonas Using, and he's a Danish guy, does these very interesting videos about invisible visual effects. And he's done 2 of them so far that are so good.
Yeah.
And he's starting to get a lot more attention.
And he's not like mean or hectory about it. He's just very straightforward about what's real. Right.
He's actually, politically speaking, perfect tone and should be celebrated for it. So
it's really impressive. So look up.
Which guy is this?
The video's name is No CG is Actually Invisible CG. And it's on YouTube. It's become relatively popular, and he covers things like Napoleon and things like this. And
he covered Napoleon. He covered Top Gun.
These things are loaded with VFX all over the place, and they're utterly seamless. And it really shows
why you guys have touched on that. Why is it? Why are executives insisting to tell the directors?
Because I think that a lot of people. So actually, you're the one who brought it up. There's a lot of people there's a backlash against CG. And I think you summed it up in the most interesting ways.
Me? How come I don't remember that?
Because you said do you think people are against CG because they're tired of Marvel films? And I think that's exactly right.
Oh, maybe that's it. Yeah.
Yes. Well, they're tired of bad CG, especially attached to bad
they just
stories.
associate Marvel films, which they're tired of that same genre.
Yeah, shitty movies.
Same shitty movie. Yes, and they associate that with a lot of CG. And so therefore, if it doesn't have CG and it's all practical, it's guaranteed not to be a Marvel film.
Yeah, because then you're talking about a Christopher Nolan movie who obviously doesn't use any CG and he makes good movies. So that's the thing that made a Christopher Nolan movie good is the fact that he didn't use CG, not the fact that he's a great director.
He used CG on Oppenheimer.
He fucking used CG all over the place. He uses CG all the time. Movie.
Yeah, he even talked about it. He got a visionary award from the Visual Effects Society. By the way, why are we giving out awards to people who bash CG all the time?
What about Ang Lee? He deserves one.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm getting at.
God
so
bless you,
that's
Ang.
one of the reasons why I'm not going to join the VES. I keep like, you gotta stop.
Why do they do that?
I was a member, right?
So was I, and I got out of it.
All of it because like
after the Ang Lee stuff, I got out of it.
You touched on it. Like, I mean, the simple math of this thing. This has nothing to do with anyone in the industry disrespecting visual effects. It has to do with business, right?
Yes.
The perception of visual effects, of VFX, by the audience who buys tickets is, when I see bad visual effects, right? When I don't see visual effects, I don't know they exist. When I do see them, I think it's because they're bad, right? And they're usually attached to very bad movies, because the reason why the visual effects on many films are bad is because of the production of the film itself and the fact that it's rushed out bullshit. Like, the reason why the CG in Black Widow is terrible isn't because untalented people worked on Black Widow. No. Right? It's because of the production itself. They're grinding out a bullshit bad movie as fast as they can, and they're putting all the creative decisions in post. That's why you end up with bad stuff, right? Yeah. So it's the executives themselves that are creating bad CG and the association with bad film.
Yeah,
but because it is associated in people's minds,
they'll just blame it on somebody else.
Right. And so in the end, people, audience members, perfectly reasonably associate, when they see a visual effect that is bad, they are watching a movie that is bad, and they think the reason why the movie is bad is because of the bad visual effect, because it's the only thing they can notice, right?
Well, these are the people that walked out of the theater and said, "God, that was a dumb movie."
Yeah.
To when you were there,
right? And so they see that, and that affects box office. When directors say like, "There's no CG in this movie," what they're saying is, "This is a good movie. You can spend your money on this movie because it's good. It doesn't have any of that dumb CG that was making those movies
But
bad."
It's the same thing, right? Like, the people are like, "Oh, it uses AI or whatever." It's like, it's the same argument.
I can't fault the audience. They're not in the fucking business. They're just like, I saw Black Widow and it sucked, and I don't want to fucking pay for that.
But that narrative has been fed to them also by the movie industry,
by the studios themselves who created the problem.
Right.
Like, so that's the problem.
But it's also and this is brought up in Jonas's videos. By the way, thank you, Jason. His YouTube channel is called The Movie Rabbit Hole. So it's just youtube.com/@themovierabbithole, all one word.
Right.
So go check that out. But he brings this up specifically, it's the press. And the reason the press loves articles like this is that it gets more clicks.
Yes.
Anything negative against something gets more clicks.
Yes.
And that's what the press needs, is they get clicks. If they say this was a great movie because the CG was great, it won't get as many clicks as saying there was no visual effects in this because visual effects is bad, CG is bad, and therefore it gets more clicks.
And so the studios play into this by saying, we need to hide the fact that there are visual effects in the marketing stuff.
Because now we will get more clicks and therefore get more tickets. Now, what's also interesting is he points it out specifically with Ridley Scott, right? Mm-hmm. Ridley...
Super pro CG. Love CG.
He's super pro CG. And
he still says it.
They show an interview with him where they're like, there was no CG in this thing. And they show a shot which was clearly full of CG. And they're like, and Jonas points it out, it's like, they probably edited that wrongly. Yeah. He's probably not even talking about that shot.
It could be talking about any shot.
They show him doing another interview where he says everything behind this line was all CG because we could only hire so many people in this movie.
How could you not look at those Vista shots and say, "Oh, there's no CG in it"?
It's fucking. There's a billion horses on screen. Like, they don't have that many horses in Poland. Like, this is the way it is, you know.
The whole movie was shot in 65 days. There's no way. He says it really disgusting. There's no way I could have done that without CG.
Of course. And the thing is, and as a filmmaker, like, you do it however you do it. Like, the job is to get the shot on the screen. Like, you're making a movie. Like, you're going to pick the best, fastest, cheapest way to get the image on the screen, whether it's CG or live or whatever. Like, you have to be agnostic. You're not going to be like, it's only puppets. Like, unless you're making a Muppet movie, that is not what you're aiming for. Like you're trying to get the best effect for the money in that amount of time, all the time. And so even VFX artists aren't just be like, VFX artists that we have all worked with, like if we had the chance to go out and blow up something in the parking lot and film it and put it into the effects,
totally will do that.
Totally do it.
Yeah.
Like
I worked on Sky Captain. Jesus, did we pull shit out of our ass?
Yeah, like you do it because it's fun and you do it because it works. You need to get the job done. You know? Right. And so like this idea where the studios are now hiding the fact from the press that there's VFX involved so they can sell you more tickets is very similar to how in the olden days, in the golden age of Hollywood, they would put out like photos about how the two lead cast members really were in love. Like, so you could believe in the bullshit romance backing the movie.
Which was in the plot of
Babylon.
Not just Babylon. What's the other one I'm looking at? Singing in the Rain.
Singing in the Rain.
It's
bullshit.
Singing in the Rain talked about it back in the
exactly. 40s. It's the same fucking problem, dude. Yeah. It's like, because like you want to take the still of Singing in the Rain when you see like the bad actress singing in front of the microphone and you see Carrie Fisher's mother in the background behind the curtain actually doing the singing and say like this is what the press prints. This is CG. Right. CG is actually carrying the fucking show. Like that's just the way it works. But people want to pick the romantic. I mean, this is true for literally everything on the internet. They're going to pick the thing that romantically supports their own ego. And that's what they're going to go with.
Bottom line.
Yeah, yes. Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's what sells more tickets.
Yeah,
what sells more tickets or what gets more clicks.
Yep, that's that. So yeah, The Killer is jam-packed with great visual effects and great virtual production work. And it is all utterly seamless. And it is beautiful. Like that movie is beautiful.
One thing I can tell you from having worked on a Fincher film, and you've worked on several, Daniel, it's not a bad pixel that's going to get by David Fincher.
No, it's really beautiful. Way. No way. You think actors complain about multiple shots?
No way.
Like this dude, like Fincher has an eye that must have 5,000 more whatever cones than there, whatever the rods or cones than anybody else. Because he would be like, there, what's that?
Yeah. And I'll tell you one thing. He can smell the color magenta from the parking lot.
Oh, yeah, dude. He wants it out. Out.
There is nothing even remotely pink in any of his movies.
But unlike many people who pixel fuck things into the earth, like Fincher actually knows what he wants.
Oh, no, he'll tell you exactly.
He knows what he wants.
Well, now do that. Now, keep working on that until that thing that I'm pointing at goes away.
Yeah, and he knows how it works. He's like, bring this up over here, bring that down over here, do this. Right. And you're like, yeah, that is how you do it. You know, he knows exactly what he wants going into making the movie. And if he doesn't know exactly what he wants, he knows how to describe it so that it gets there. There it is. You know, like he's an absolute pro as far as I saw all the time. And like when you get when you get something like The Killer, which is so machine tooled as an artistic event, like a crafted event. Like I was talking, like someone's like, well, you know, it's kind of a minor Fincher. I was just like, I feel like this is like in the corner of a map, you have the key, you know, and it tells you what all the pieces mean on the map. Like, I feel like people will be able to go back and look at The Killer and go, these are all the elements that Fincher uses in all of his films, but you've never seen them so razor sharp and collected in a bunch like this. Like he's just like, this is all of my craft on display all the time. And it's basically all you're seeing. And it's phenomenal. It's one of the best made films I've seen in a decade. It's incredible.
Yeah. Well, good. So people should see it. So this is good.
Yeah.
So people may not have seen Le Samouraï.
Which is plain great. A classic.
Which is a classic film that people should see. Mm-hmm. And we've told them about that. And then they should see this film, which they may have missed.
And you should see it in that order. See Le Samouraï first, then see The Killer,
then watch The Killer again.
And then it's like that's how, because you're gonna like see Le Samouraï, and then they're going to bounce off each other very very well.
Oh yeah,
Like I said, there's Carlos is a badass. Carlos is a jackass. Is the model for this double.
That's the perfect analogy. It's the same movie from a different point of view.
Yeah, it's hysterical.
Slightly different edit.
Yes, slightly different edit. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And also, I would say, I mean, R.E. Napoleon. Napoleon's actually quite good. I liked Napoleon quite a bit.
I thought Napoleon was great.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good
movie. It was funny because it is what it needs to be. Where like Joaquin Phoenix is like, he's a little mama's boy.
He's a whiny baby.
He's a whiny
baby.
And it's like, man. And Josephine is such a whore.
Oh, she's great, man. That actor she is fantastic. She's really my favorite part of the movie. She's really terrific.
You know who I thought she was, because I didn't quite recognize her, and then I thought I knew who she was, and it turns out I was wrong. But what's the movie? Is it Crazy Stupid Love with?
I love that movie. That's a good movie.
What's his name in it? What's
Steve Carell?
Steve Carell. Right. Do you remember the girl who is in love with the babysitter?
She does look like her. Yes,
I thought it was her. I thought she was the babysitter.
That's a reasonable assumption. Yeah.
Right. I was like, because she had that very similar face and a very long neck. You know.
Yes. Yeah. I can't quite place her, but she for me. I mean, like Phoenix is terrific. Good. Phoenix is doing terrific in very original work. Right. So good. But
we just covered like if you look at like how amazing he is, because you look at Napoleon, the Joker, her, right, and all the things, and they're all very different characters, but yet they're the same person.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Like he has a ball in this movie too. It's so funny.
I want to go see that Napoleon.
Yeah. Like, dude,
clearly having a ball
when he tells the fucking the English guy, I'm just like, you think you're so great because you have boats. It's like, that is the funniest fucking thing I've ever heard.
When he walks in on his wife who's getting ready to get dressed, and he's just going,
because
he wants to have sex with her, and he's like,
so ridiculous. It's hysterically funny.
He's like a little child, like, I want my milkshake now.
Yeah, I talked to a friend of mine today about it. He's just like, I didn't like it. And I was like, what didn't you like? He's just like, well, really? Napoleon's kind of a buffoon. And I was like, yeah,
exactly.
This is the same. This is the killer conversation all over again.
Like,
he's an asshole. This is great.
They call it a Napoleon complex.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought it was common knowledge that he's an asshole.
And in between all that, you have these fucking crazy, brilliant battle scenes, which are just insane.
So good.
Like, they're absolutely stunning. It's a really, really good movie. It's definitely like, I wouldn't say it's my favorite movie of the year, Killer is, but like it's way up there. I was really surprised. Very, very nice.
Is it doing well? Let me check.
It did modestly well. It did pretty well globally and okay in America. It did better than people thought. They thought they had a bomb in their hands, but it actually worked out okay. And it'll do really well for Apple when they release it.
I think it's already released. It's grossed $170 globally.
Yeah, so it's like it's on. I think it costs more than that, but by the time it makes all the rounds, it'll break even.
Oh, the budget was $130 to $200.
Yeah, it's looking good. So yeah, it needs to clear marketing now, and then and it'll be on Apple Plus with an extra 45 minutes. So like it'll recoup. It'll be all right.
It only made $20 million opening. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't do hot business. It just did a little bit better than people expected because they thought it was going to collapse. But he's plowing right into Gladiator 2 and then another movie right after that. I'm just like, God damn.
Gladiator 2.
Yeah. He's already shot it. He was editing it during COVID.
That man is a very busy 80-year-old.
That's insane.
Is he
if
80?
I could make a cup of coffee when I'm 80, that'll be a
Is
big
he
trick.
80?
Yeah, I think he's older than that. It's like 80. He's over that.
He's
like 83, 85.
Age.
He's
86.
He's 86. Holy shit.
Shit is right.
That's insane, dude.
Yeah.
God bless him. And and Ferrari's coming out. Another one, Michael Mann. I think it's like 81.
Can't wait to see that.
And that's supposed to be terrific. It's gotten great reviews. All the festivals love it.
How old is what's his name?
Man is 80, at least 82, 81, 82.
No.
Yeah. Yep. So you got these old masters fucking coming out and batting them out of the park. It's pretty great.
And Clint Eastwood is probably 90 something.
He's way up there. He's working on his last movie now.
Dick Van Dyke is 98. I don't know why I brought that up.
Bless you. I love Dick.
But I hear Maestro's really good.
I do hear it's great. I'm looking forward to that. I'm a fan of that guy. I almost resisted being a fan of that guy, but
Mel Brooks is 97.
Yeah. God
what?
Yeah.
Mel Brooks is 97.
Loves him gay. Yeah, fantastic. But yeah, no. Maestro is next week, right?
What?
I think Maestro is next week. Maestro is Wednesday.
Oh yeah,
I
saw. Yeah, I'm semi interested.
Reviews are terrific for that thing.
Yeah,
and I got to be honest, I really loved his first movie with Lady Gaga.
Yeah,
I thought it was brilliantly directed movie. Really, he's absolute natural. So
yeah,
I'm in for it. I like it. And so we got Ferrari. We got that. There's another one coming out. Shoot, I can't think of it. Oh, and I'm very excited. Rebel Moon, Zack Snyder's 2 movies coming out back to back on Netflix next week.
Right.
It has got, I believe, a 14% on Rotten Tomatoes.
What?
Which I just love now. Like I'm just gonna watch it. It's gonna be really pretty. But I'm just like,
Brady went with his friends to go see The Marvels. He says we're gonna go hate watch it. And I was like, okay, that movie.
Still giving him money.
Yeah,
I understand, but that movie still made less money than The Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton. Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, that's
Incredible Hulk was famously the worst movie Marvel ever did.
And
the Marvels did worse than that.
Yeah. I even heard that Marvels wasn't so bad. I heard it was okay, but it's just like
I think people are done with that franchise.
Yeah, I think they're just fucking sick of it. I mean, like the thing is, like the reason why I saw the ad for the Marvels, that's why I didn't go see the Marvels. Like I was like, that looks like shit, so I don't want to pay for that.
Yep.
There you go. Like that's my thinking. It's not very much more elaborate than that. That looks bad. If it's good, I'll be happy to watch it, but that didn't draw me in.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, this has been good, guys. I want to let people know that holidays are coming up, so we are not going to do a podcast for probably a couple of weeks as we start to do things. Although at the same time, we're still working on a bunch of things together, which is actually very exciting. We've been busier than ever on non-podcast stuff as a Martini Giant group, and we're very excited.
It's gonna be fun when we can finally tell you about that stuff. It's very fun.
Yeah, so that's been going really well. But this podcast will come out after the New Year's, so we'll see there. But for the next few weeks, probably not have any recordings, but we should be.
Yeah, I'm away.
Yeah, and you're going to you're in Japan,
Tokyo,
right?
Yep, cool.
Which is cool. So have a great vacation. But we'll obviously stay in touch as we go. If you guys have suggestions of what you guys want us to do, I'd love to have them. I want us to do One Deadly Summer. Now I'm going to put that in our list of things to watch.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
I'm going to show you guys the trailer after this, and then I'll explain to you why I think we should do this movie because
That sounds great. That sounds great. My quick recommendation for anyone who's listening live. I watched Leave the World Behind with Julia Roberts and Mahershala Ali, and
that's that End of the World movie, right?
Yeah, like I watched it.
I've heard a lot of things about this. It's a movie, right? I thought it's a
movie.
Okay.
It's a movie.
It's on Netflix.
And my first impression, I watched it and I was like, I think I really liked that. I liked a lot of it. I think I really liked that. I watched it again. I was like, I really like. This is a really interesting, weird film. I like this movie a lot.
I like weird films. That's good.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
And then the other one that someone put on our Discord, which I haven't seen, but it's someone, I think it might have been Caesar, but someone said they saw Violent Night and it said it was great fun.
Yeah, that sounds.
So I was like, all right, because I was like, all right, I'll see it. Maybe
January watch party. That's what we. That's what.
Yeah. What was the one your kids went for? The Hate.
The Marvel.
What was it called?
The Marvels. That's the sequel to
the Marvels
or whatever. Oh, a Corolla says if you like the movie for Leave the World Behind, the book is good in many of the same ways, but more so. I'll totally read that book. I was really into the movie. I thought it was great. That sounds good.
Cool. Are you guys ready for this?
Yes.
All right.
Let's do it.
Drink.
Talk.
Drink.